Hey guys, we are back on the stream here. I've got everything going up. We switched over to Zoom, so please enjoy what we have going on already in process.
So are we live now still?
We're
We're
live
still
on
live.
we're
We're
live
still
on Eddsworld.
alive.
We're live on
We're,
Generational Gap, and I'm not dropping
we're
frames anymore.
So now the question
Woohoo!
is, how are we looking on the stream? That's
Well,
the
we
big
gotta wait for
thing.
it. We gotta wait for it to catch up.
For what to catch up?
The
The
stream.
stream.
We'll,
Goddamn.
we'll catch up, bitches.
oh, Robert.
Mm-mm.
Hey, so I'm doing a different camera now. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Hey, it's
everybody.
Steven from this angle, though.
It is.
Yeah, it's like the close up now.
That's right, dude. I was so far away. I was so far away. All right,
Well, dude, I just noticed you got rid of the neck beard.
dude. I'm never getting rid of the neck. It's a
Oh,
thing
okay.
here.
Can't
Neck
really
beard
see.
is
Oh, yes, it is, of course.
it's
All
here,
right.
dude.
So hopefully our stream is looking better. So I'll wait for some input from the audience to see if that kind of solves some of the
Yeah,
issue.
what do you guys think?
I killed my Discord, so hopefully that'll.
Make sure you guys refresh out there.
Yeah, make sure you refresh out there, folks.
Refresh your
So-
screen.
So now I can share screen as well. You
I
guys,
have
Maybe.
no idea.
I've been worried about 5G for a while. I've been worried about 5G.
Well, I mean, it's really not that bad. So what 5G is, right? It's just so that
I'm just saying.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's pretty bad.
people are worried about 5G, but they don't know what it really is.
Right,
God,
no,
it
what it
makes-
really is so that they can recharge the birds wirelessly instead of having to change the batteries every once in a while.
All right. So
You good?
I think so.
Chilling.
Like I said, just waiting to hear from the chat if everything kind of got
All right.
sorted out there.
Oh, I forgot to announce earlier that I will be doing a special surprise every time there's a donation live on air. Just to let you know.
Nice.
Keep
Nice.
people
Oh,
informed.
dude.
That's what I do.
Jake from Freedom Scoop has donated a diamond over on
Diamond?
D
Oh.
Live.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, but no, to the GoFundMe.
No, on D Live for some
Okay,
reason.
gotcha. Okay, well, thank you.
We've got
No,
people in the chat over on the Eddsworld
Cheers to the
side.
stream.
Welcome
people
in
in the
Spartan
chat.
Subhuman.
I don't know. Our stream is still like super late. I don't know.
Mine's not. Mine's going perfectly.
Oh, is it? Is it just me? Okay.
Might be
I mean, if
just
it's
you.
just me, that's fine. Yeah. As long as it's going out to the plebs, you know. I mean, the
Plebs.
fine people out there, of course.
Yeah, I'm watching on
Yeah,
YouTube
I-
right now over on my tablet, and it is going just fine over there from
Perfect.
Eddsworld
So
side.
we're good.
Resume where we left off.
Let's resume.
Let's
where we left off.
resumificate, guys.
Yes.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap Freedom Scoop Live.
right, take
Nice.
two.
Fundraiser.
Take two.
Jesus, guys.
Good people.
I need a cigarette. See, this is why I have so much anxiety because I know something like this. Every time I'm gonna something's
Let
fucking
me
with
try and just restart the whole damn thing.
not
No,
restart
not the
whole damn
computer.
thing. See, you're still getting lag.
Yeah, I'm still getting lag too. So if I mean, as long
Yes.
as it's fine for you guys out there, then it's just still
Still
lagging.
lagging.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well.
Haha.
Well,
Fucking lame.
well, I keep trying to. Yeah, I've kicked up my video bitrate output so that it's hopefully going faster. I got the fastest encoding preset set.
I'll encode your fast preset.
Whoa, it's a little aggressive.
That is not even close to the amount of aggressive that I get.
We're
Oh, ad.
not going more than 10 seconds without freezing. Ah.
But it's not freezing from your stream, Ed?
No,
we're-
Eddsworld is running perfectly. I'm watching it on my tablet right here. Yeah, running good. So if you want to zip them over to my channel, if you want.
I'm going to go hit myself in the head with a hammer. That's what I'm going to do.
You can use my hammer if you want.
Yeah, same offer goes for me. Like if you just want to send me the overlays or whatever, or not even.
I don't even know how to send you these overlays from OBS
Oh, I see.
because they're all built into OBS.
Well, I just built my own overlay as the one that I did.
Oh, well, geez, Ed. That's the best. That's the best option at this point. It's just to transfer. It's just to stream directly from Ed's channel, so it'll be fresh video, and you do either Zoom or Discord.
Now there is a lot to be said for if I whether or not I need to restart OBS, but of course that'll force a restart of the stream.
Spartan
Yeah.
Subhuman has a question, and I'm going to kick it to the round table here. Best country at dealing with Corona-chan? Start with we'll start with John because
North
Robert's
Korea.
still preoccupied.
They
North
keep having
Korea.
they keep having one case and then no cases, then one case, then no case. It's really weird. I don't know how they do it.
Steven,
That was
if you
good.
could top that
was
one.
a good one. I like that one. I don't know, like whatever countries just like shut their borders now. Like I think didn't Hungary do it? And I think Russia did it at the beginning. But countries like that.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Now that you
Yeah.
said that. Wyatt?
China.
That was so funny with the North Korea. That was great. It was fantastic.
Wyatt, we'll throw that one to you.
I would say China, just because we don't know what actually is happening through media coverage. But like, I guess you could say it's similar to the North Korea deal, because it's like, yes, their cases are going lower, but is it really going lower?
Robert, can you tear yourself away from your OBS for long enough to answer that one?
To be honest with you, with I don't know, China did a pretty fucking good job of locking shit down themselves. I mean, they've actually unlocked Wuhan now, and their productions have been kicking back up all around the country. They were pretty aggressive with how they did it.
Dude,
And
it's so
I have to say, North Korea, not North Korea, but South Korea seems to have done a pretty
Yeah.
good job as well.
Well, China
Yeah.
did build that hospital in like 10 days, and then it just so happened to have collapsed when it was full of coronavirus patients. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, you know.
Dude, did you guys see that report? Did you guys see that report that said that the intelligence agencies in America warned the U.S. government in November about this virus?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
they warned the health organization, wasn't it?
Dude, it's ridiculous. It's outrageous. Yeah.
I mean, so, God damn, well, you're gonna make me defend the government. God. So no, they get like kind of reports all the time. They have to
True.
try and determine what's actionable and what's not, and what's
Yeah.
actually a threat and what's not. And obviously sometimes they fuck it up.
I'm just saying, I think something happened in the last August to November. Then when they knew about this shit, I think they definitely knew about this shit like months
Oh,
and
yeah,
months
for
and
sure.
months before they told
For
anybody.
sure.
Yeah, whether you can embrace full conspiracy or not, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty apparent.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, bunch of gay wads.
Robert, I got a question from the Discord for you. How much does Zoom cost?
$15 a month, or it's
Oh, 20
$12.90.
seconds and counting without freezing, guys. Like, let's keep with the coronavirus talk. Apparently, that keeps us
Hey.
alive.
Yeah.
How much
I,
cost?
I have not had any freeze since I went back live again, so
You got any of that freeze, dog?
no freeze.
Oh my god.
You got any of that freeze, homie? That ice, dude.
Come on, man. Like,
I'll give
It's
you some of
Florida.
that ice.
It is. It is Florida.
Yeah, we don't have any ice.
You have all the ice, dude. All the ice is in Florida.
Well, you got to go in the freezer to find it, but
No,
yeah.
I mean all the meth.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that
what he
kind
was
of
going
it,
on.
yeah.
I'm talking about like
I'm
ice.
sorry if I'm not up on my meth slang. No,
Oh, you don't know that freeze, dude? You don't know
no,
that freeze, dog? Come on, dog.
I ain't never done that shit.
yeah.
Still
No, I'm
not
just-
freezing, says Sully.
I'm just saying I've seen The Wire.
Nice.
I've shut down. I've shut down
Awesome.
everything that might be, and just bear in mind they may have been that the continued freezing may have been just catching up.
Yeah.
But I've shut down anything that should be eating my bandwidth, everything. So hopefully
Fuck
we
yeah.
got some resolution here.
Cool.
Nothing on the screen. So I took off everything. So it's just nothing but us on the screen. No scrolls, no anything. So let's see if that solves it.
Badass, dude.
So if anybody does have any Twitter questions, either direct them towards my Twitter, edsblogtwitter at gmail, or not, that's my email address, edsblogtwitter with a 1 in place of the I, because I do still have all that up, so I can take anything as well.
Yeah.
And then we will be
That's
having
a very
guest
long
coming up shortly.
Twitter.
This blog Twitter.
With a 1 in place of the I.
Yeah. It's funny that I used to have a Wi-Fi password in the old place that we used to live.
Mhm.
It was shit. No, it was Wi-Fi no spaces. But it was you had to type out spaces.
Hmm.
Yeah. It was funnier back then.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're on Zoom. So you think that like we're gonna get Zoom bombed with some dicks or something like that? You know, like some person gonna like
how do you
Well,
draw?
Nazi dicks?
well, no,
I mean,
because
is that what you want to happen?
No,
I mean, I
no.
can make it happen. It
I-
seems
I
like
don't-
you're,
just
hold
just
on.
been
not the
talking about
Nazi
that
part.
for a
Hold
while.
Not
the
Nazi
beautiful
part.
the beautiful part of it is because I paid for this, that it gives us a locked area. People can't just
so
drop in.
lockdown.
I've
Yeah.
got to admit people to come in. I've got to allow them to come in.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So
how
that's
do you
actually
do that?
something
How
that
do
we need
we-
to keep in mind, because I've
so
got a
then
guest
how do-
that's going to be coming up soon.
The next
no,
question.
no,
yeah.
really, everybody talk at once.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
What I was saying is, so how do we arrange to get said Nazi? Sorry. Okay.
Are you
Yeah, I
just
was-
trying to figure out the best way to get dicks on the screen? Is that really all this is about, Steven?
That
It
is
really-
the best thing there is.
I kind of want to though.
I believe
you know,
there. I do
science
believe there's
purposes.
I believe there's a whiteboard function somewhere in here that you can pull up a whiteboard and feel free
Really?
to draw for the rest of the group.
Really?
Man, why's it got to be a whiteboard, you fucking racist?
Why?
Yeah,
Does
Jesus.
that? Can you really do that?
I think so, but I haven't used Zoom in a long time, and I don't know how they've amped it up.
Is it in the chat? No.
But yeah, you can play. Can you play around? Yeah, I can like clap. There you go.
You've got the clap.
No, I can
Oh,
clap
dude,
now.
come on.
Um.
Don't have the clap in here. Spreading that shit around.
Oh yeah. Hold on. Hey guys. I'm in San Francisco.
Oh my
Wait.
god.
How did you do that? How did you do that? How did you do that? I want to go.
I'm in San Fran, guys. It's great.
It's
Make
not
sure
fair
you're
if
not
you don't
stepping
tell
on
us how
shit.
you did it.
Yeah.
It's a great time, guys. Here we go. All right, so here you go.
Oh man, this must be compelling for everyone out there.
Dude, space
Great
is fake and
programming.
gay.
Hey, it's probably better than the leg.
It's
How are
fake.
you
Yeah,
doing that?
probably.
I want to
Bro.
know, Daddy.
Dude, dog,
Bro.
I don't know if I'm like the Masons, dude. I got secrets, dude. You guys want to go on a
No more
luau?
lag and audio is good. Bad news, video displays are all frozen. Excellent.
Cool. Oh, maybe I should get rid of this. Maybe that's overloading it or something like that.
Hey, mine are doing
Oh.
just fine.
I was on a luau though, dude. If everything's working well, I'll share my secrets, but it's really easy to find. It's just down at the bottom somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah, over the rainbow.
Oh,
Um,
God.
I mean, so I'll keep it.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, isn't it weird how it like you know how it like has this little globby snapshot of your head? That's how it like works.
Yeah, because your arms are like now you only got one arm.
Yeah. Well,
Do the robot, Steven.
there you go. Hold on. Like,
Yeah, Steven, I'm willing to bet you did some breakdancing back in the day. I
Yeah.
bet you did. Yeah.
absolutely. I have absolutely did breakdance.
I can see it.
Yeah, so I can just chill like this for like, oh yeah, cool. $100 gets my arm back, guys. Dang it.
$100.
$100 to the GoFundMe, and I become two-armed man again.
Speaking of, we still have Stephen Ignoramus's donation as the
Yeah,
only one.
Once we get a donation,
Excellent.
the surprise comes out.
Ooh.
It'll be glorious. Oh, you can add images. Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
God,
Yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff. That's interesting.
That
behave
is
yourself,
interesting.
Steven.
Anyway,
Yep. So how are you guys doing?
good now that we got everything running again the right way.
Yeah.
Think so. I mean, apparently the video displays were all frozen, so that's pretty awesome.
Oh, they're frozen again.
That's what RRC was saying. No more lag and the audio is good, but the bad news is video displays are all frozen.
God damn it! I don't have anything running but OBS and Zoom.
Let me check my stream again because I've got yours up so I can see the chat. Yeah, I got everybody running just fine. Everybody is running perfectly off of my stream.
Yeah. I don't know. So we just do the old transfer, right? Is that what we should do?
Robert. what do you wanna
Robert.
do?
Well, how are we going to handle that?
Put the link to my channel up in the stream, up in the live chat, and send everybody else over there.
And you can even stream with the link to Jay Edgar's channel on the screen with like either just music playing or something like that. And you just direct everyone to Ed's channel, and we continue.
All right, get a
Would
link
that
up
be-
in there, and we'll swap it over.
Would that be like a 12-hour loop of Stephen Molyneux's nips?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want that scene? Yes.
Yes, it will.
Can't believe you spotted a breakdancer. Did you breakdance, Fego?
Hell no.
No,
No.
you ain't black like me, dude.
No.
You
I'm
ain't,
way
you ain't black
white.
like me, son.
All right, so
Well, I'm not.
so
I'm not black like me.
Yeah. No, I get see it just like based on like what I know about you and your personality. I can see that you at least try breakdancing.
That's a very good description.
Yeah.
That is what I did. Is I tried to breakdance.
Did you succeed? It's going to be the issue.
I wasn't that good. No.
all right, so Stephen,
Okay.
why don't you throw a link up? Let's do. Is it going to be stronger coming from Ed or coming from yours? If we go ahead and swap it out.
I was just saying it'd be good for Ed's because he's like already doing it. It's like we already have the proof in the pudding. So I'm putting Jagger's.
Nice.
I'm still willing to do it from mine, but I'd put Jagger's channel in the chat right here in our chat.
Yeah.
In the Zoom chat, and I'll also link it on my my server in Discord, and we just transferred to Jaggers. That we do. Good plan.
Jedgar. All right.
Or
good talk, guys.
we just keep going on Jaggers right now, and Robert like kills the stream. Is that?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to kill ours, and then I'll restart recording so that there's because
you
I
can-
still want to stream through ours, right?
Oh no, I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm saying that I think that's the problem. Is your output signal to the internet?
All right, well, let's do that. Yeah, we can do that because again, to be honest with you, I think because of changes I've made and everything, it would just require OBS be restarted.
So just to be clear, we're on Zoom right now, and J. Edgar, you're also streaming.
Yes,
So
I am.
Yeah. So, if Robert cuts the stream on his end, your stream will keep going
Yes, it will.
of this Zoom call.
Yes, it will.
I'd say we give that a shot because it's
Yeah.
working fine on his end. So
Peace.
just kill it, yeah.
All right.
And we're still live right now on J. Edgar's channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. I say so let's
Well,
start
let's
getting in chats and
let's make sure get that link into John. Can you plug that into
Yeah.
the YouTube chat and our D Live chat,
okay.
Yeah.
and then you guys plug it into your YouTube's
are
D
on.
Lives or whatever,
Oh,
so that
yeah,
it
nice.
switches over.
Look at that. Steven already taking care of it before I can even get to it. He's
Okay,
chirking
and,
my gerb.
Yeah, no, dude. The gerbs are a thing, dude. They're a thing these days. All right, so it restreamed over.
Mhm.
Oh, we're good. I don't have to even put it. I'll put it twice.
And
The link's so nice. You put it twice.
Robert, we do have somebody else that's ready to get on the Zoom call too. So
Who?
Jessica Green, Anarchy Toward, is going to be joining us.
Oh, Cool.
So let me get the link up for Jessica here.
Okay, you're restreaming on. Okay. Yeah, I'll take care of all this crap.
All right, I'm killing this stream.
Do
Hey,
it.
why don't you kill this stream?
Kilt.
You should probably kill the stream.
It's a kilt. Kill it.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Okay.
But yeah, you said that you had to admit people, Robert, so that's why I was letting you know that we were getting ready to get somebody in. And then Britt is actually going to be pretty much ready to come in too. I mentioned that yesterday.
All right. Oh shit.
All right.
All right,
Bold
let me
strategy,
get this
Cotton.
link out. Let's
Dude,
see if it works.
Bold men are able to make decisions like this about routing internet.
Yeah, I'm watching for the request to come in.
Okay.
Cool.
I've got the link out.
That was Lewis and Clark-esque. That little internet transfer.
A little bit of discovery going on here. Get the live
You
chat
know.
up so I can see what's going on here.
What is it's like? Never forget that we came from fearful men. Like we did not come from fearful men.
I do
All
come
right.
from fearful men.
Oh yeah.
Sent all
Oh
those
my gosh,
buttons
okay.
over here. I mean, there's fine folk in the chat, of course.
The great people that we have coming and chatting and donating with us here.
Yes.
Jake wants his lemons from the Gen Gap stream back.
Yeah, sorry. Much like the Bernie campaign, no refunds.
No refunds. How do you guys feel about Bernie dropping out here?
I mean, obviously it was going to happen eventually. I think he waited too long, but at the same time, I understand why. You know? Oh, hey, somebody new.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Oh hi. Hello. How's it going?
How we all doing?
So we've got Jessica Green here from the Anarchy Toward podcast, and somebody who is going to be joining our ranks in the near future, as we talked about a bit off mic here. Welcome on in, Jessica.
Hi guys. Can y'all hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Good to go. All right.
So
What do we got going on?
Well, why don't you start out with everyone who's not familiar with you here. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I am a YouTube podcaster, and I like to chop it up about anarchy and agorism and homesteading, prepper, farming, anything like that on Twitter. So I have at Anarchy Toward, which is where most people could find me. And yeah, I just like to talk about anything survival, anything homesteading, anything canning. You know, hoping to get chickens in the near future. You guys are going to be seeing a lot of that if I do. So.
Oh, you're going to become Ron Helton's best friend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got to get the hens put to bed. He tells us that every time we stream.
Yeah, that pisses me off. I had chickens here, and then the city came and said, "Oh, you can't have those chickens."
Yep.
Oh, that's
Government.
a bunch of BS, man.
Right? That's what happens when you live in an incorporated city limits.
Our city, you're not supposed to have more than 4, but I know that my neighbors definitely have way more than they're supposed to. So I think there's an unspoken rule that we just don't rat on each other around here.
Do you have roosters?
Yeah, and they talk to each other across the yard all day long.
That's what got us when we had the chooser, because we had 3 bantams, but one of them was a rooster, and he was going off every morning, every afternoon, and one of my asshole neighbors, I don't know which one it is, but I'm just going to target them all. They called and complained.
That stinks,
I know,
man. Yeah,
good narcs.
there's a lot of them around here, so I think everybody is pretty cool. I also hear a lot of gunfire all the time, so I think everybody's just kind of doing their own thing around here, which is why we moved out here.
Very nice.
You are neighbors with 2 of the people on this stream. Is that correct?
I don't know. Are you?
Well, I live in Metro Atlanta. I don't know about you guys.
And you've got the
yeah,
2
we're,
Florida men up in the corner.
Yeah, we're in Florida.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
you guys are
Pretty
kind of
close.
close. Yeah.
We're in Metro Atlanta. I used to live in Atlanta for like 14 years. I used to live downtown mostly.
Oh, I actually lived in downtown. For most of the time that I've lived in Georgia, I lived in downtown Atlanta, like right in the middle of the city. And I was there in 2014 when they had the snowpocalypse. And that let me know I needed to get the hell out of the city.
Mm.
So yeah, we moved. We're actually north of Atlanta, quite a ways, probably about an hour or so. And
Up near
you know,
like
Up near Rome,
past
Georgia.
Buford and all that.
yeah, we are. Yeah, I don't want to get too specific about my
Right.
location,
I mean, if we
obviously,
could just get
but like
address
I
and your zip
knew
code.
when you.
Yeah.
And if you
Knew-
could
I
kindly
knew-
provide us
Northern
with
area.
your social
Yeah,
security number and
Right.
thank you.
I knew saying Buford area was good because that's like 30 minutes outside of downtown. So I knew there was still a buffer there, but you're out past.
yeah, we're well up past that. We're definitely out in the country. I'm the one with the accent out here. Everybody's got an accent that I don't have. So I'm also from Michigan, so I'm a transplant down here.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, me
but-
too.
My wife's from.
I love it.
Yeah. We're in Michigan. We're in Michigan near.
I was in Marquette,
Okay, cool.
so quite north.
Yeah.
Very, very
Hell
north.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's very cold.
Yes.
Cool. That's great.
The same kind of people, though, I noticed. Like rural Georgia and northern Michigan is just the same kind of folks. So I feel really at home here.
So you're a Youper.
I am
right?
a Youper.
You're a
Yeah.
Youper. Yeah, great. Nice.
I have, to explain what a Youper is, I have a paper plate holder that says Youper China on it. So that gives you an idea of what Youpers are. We're simple people.
Wing Choco says that's just Canada.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
basically
That
Canada.
is basically
That
Canada.
is basically Canada,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I
Well,
can
it's
also
funny.
tell you that
Sorry.
you're not the only one that has the accent here. Wyatt, say hi
Oh, yeah?
over there.
Hello, yes.
Hi.
We got Mr.
He's got
Texas
kind
over
of the
here
more,
as well.
more of a Texas
Yes.
kind of accent.
No, it's good. Yeah,
I don't really have a strong one compared to a lot of people, but it's still different than most of the United States.
Come on,
Yeah.
Wyatt. Y'all know you got that accent. Let it out, boy.
So I
That's
think
right.
someone just donated, right? Did someone just donate to the
Do you
GoFundMe?
think someone just donated?
I
Steven,
think.
you're
I'm
supposed
check-
to be on top
Dude,
of this.
it's $10. I have to do my surprise.
Oh, Wayne
Okay.
Choco, what's
Yeah,
up?
okay.
$10. Thank you, man. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
Man.
Let's do it, guys.
Why does it sound like all the audio just cut out?
I got all my audio.
It's fine here.
Oh, nobody was talking. Good dead air, folks. Thank you very much for stopping by with
Thank
your
you
Dead
for
air,
Steven's
dead air, dead air.
surprise.
insert
Radio
in-
silence, woohoo!
Okay, so I'm not.
Oh,
Somebody start
nice.
the next song. Start the
Dude,
next
I
song.
always have to protect myself from Corona Chan. So
Oh, good
Whenever
Lord,
someone-
look at that.
whenever someone donates, I will say like this for a couple minutes.
Until we
That's my-
finally decide we can't hear you anymore.
Yeah, until we tell you that we can't hear you much.
Can you hear me
like-
okay? I mean, I can.
No,
seems
not really.
Not re-
Totally worth it.
Okay, so
Can
let's
you
be in silence. I'll just nuts up.
can you breathe?
Yeah, it's great. I feel great. There's
All
no
right.
Corona. No Corona in here, yo.
yeah,
No
You know,
Corona.
if you'll insert a tube there, you can get all the Corona you need.
Oh, okay, if I could do that.
Oh, Wing Choco wants you to do a Bane impression.
I don't think I can. I don't know any of his lyrics, dude.
The
I
mask
don't know
does
any
most of the work.
lyrics.
Yeah,
The
it does.
bastards.
I don't know any Bane lyrics, dude.
Bane lyrics.
Oh no.
It sounds like Kenny, says Jake from Freedom Scoop. Sounds like
It sounds like Kenny.
Kenny.
Yeah, you need an orange hood at this point.
Oh, look at that. See, Wang Choco says if you talk like Bane Obama for 2 minutes, he'll donate more. Well, now you're kind of obligated.
Would it be worth it if he did Bane Trump? I mean,
Yeah, geez.
because Steven does do a good Trump.
Corona is not a problem. Not a problem, you know? It's not an issue. Just trust me.
Yeah, the bunker a mile under earth, you know.
I'm just here at the White House under Denver, under the Denver airport.
They've got like a green screen of like the Oval
Yeah,
Office.
everything's fine. There's no problem.
I like how you can definitely see his nostrils through the side.
Yes.
Oh, can
Yeah,
you?
he-
I can't.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know how to form the proper seal.
Well, that was like Chuck Schumer the other day when he had his mask on to virtue signal and his nose was hanging right the fuck out.
Yeah. So if is it like this?
That's all right. That just makes it easier for someone to come along and loot it from his
How do I get
corpse,
the
you know.
Seal? Does it have to go over under my chin like this?
It's got to go
Okay.
like over the top of the bridge of your nose, I think. Like,
Really? Like high up like that?
yeah,
yeah?
because it's got to cover the sides, and I could like see your
Oh.
nostrils.
Oh,
The
damn.
way to make it perfect, go get
Damn.
yourself a plastic bag, pull it over your head, and tie it around your neck, and that will make sure you have a good
Remember,
seal.
deep, long breaths.
You want to caulk the edges of the
Yeah.
mask.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so you have to shave the beard though, right? You can't do it with like any. You gotta get that
Dude,
good
fuck
seal,
that.
right?
I'd
No,
rather
John's got to shave the beard.
Dude. Yeah, I just continued my normal thing of not having in real life friends. That's my tactic to battle it. All right.
Thank you for the donation, Wayne Choco. All right. Should I keep it up here for the duration to tease it?
You probably should, because people are going to be donating left and right now that they know they can get you to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we've got somebody else showing up in the chat.
Do we?
Are we prepared for this?
Yeah.
Did they donate, Ed?
Let
You
us
know, we have a paywall here, pal.
Oh, this is one of the scheduled guests.
Oh,
And another mask.
We got a
Yeah.
nurse. We got a
Got another
doctor.
mask.
Yay.
amazing.
I'm just like on. That's crazy.
Welcome to the show,
Hi.
Britt.
Hello.
Hey.
What?
Hurrah.
Sorry with the mask. I am on day 13 of self-isolation. And this is the first day I've been out of my son's room since last Sunday. So I'm in the office and my kids are around and I don't want to get them sick. So sorry I look crazy.
Yeah. That's
You-
the best
you
way to
just missed
protect
the
from
Steven
computer
mask,
viruses.
Yeah, I was just wearing a respirator.
Now, Brett, is that self-isolation by precaution or self-isolation from contraction?
Well, I'm not sure. I had a phone meeting with my doctor last Monday. He thought I had strep. The next day I went to the urgent care and they couldn't take a strep test because I'd been on antibiotics for 24 hours. They said it looked like a horrible case of strep throat, but then I started coughing, shortness of breath,
Oh,
with
wow.
all kinds of fun symptoms that don't normally come with strep throat. So I'm saying it's just really weird strep throat, but because my son is immune compromised, I am taking the full precaution, 14 days in the bedroom, and just that's how life's been. So tomorrow this comes off and I can, start decorating for Easter.
Yeah, because from everything I've seen, they've said that symptoms are pretty debilitating as far as, functionality is concerned. So, that I would think that you would not be able to sit up and have a chat with us.
I'll tell you, I'm on day 13 of this. The first 5 days, I felt like I was dying.
Okay.
It was awful. My throat was so swollen that my tonsils were touching. So that's why I just told myself, this is strep throat. You're fine. But then the coughing started, and every time I would sit up, I couldn't catch my breath. At one point, I was just kind of like trying to turn and lay in any way where I could kind of like it didn't hurt my chest. But that actually kind of started to go away, and now it's just like a gentle cough that is hopefully going to stop tomorrow because the government's told me that after 14 days it'll stop. So
They don't lie. We know that.
Wouldn't
It'll work out.
Wouldn't it be interesting if you had strep and it was a stronger virus and destroyed the corona that you might have had, to where it's now just the residuals of strep?
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's kind of what had happened.
Let's all get strep throat.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and recommend that.
That's what you took from that?
As a non-medical person,
Yeah.
as a person that has no medical background except for giving insulin to a small child, I think that's probably how we fix this. So
Is that a thing? Because I feel really dumb right now. Can a stronger virus or sickness kill a weaker one? Is that really a thing, or are we just making stuff up?
I don't
just
know
makes a
that it can
super
kill.
virus.
I don't think it can kill it so much as not allow it to set in because the stronger virus is already
Yeah.
taken hold. I don't know if that's I'm just going. I'm not a doctor. I play one on television, but
When you think about it, that makes a certain amount of sense because it's like maybe it doesn't have the available resources to colonize, or something like that.
I mean, I look at something similar to what your body does. So if you look at like say marijuana and cigarettes. So if you smoke marijuana and then smoke a cigarette after, nicotine is much easier to attach to your pleasure receptors and will actually push the the THC molecules out and replace them. Thus, you diminish your buzz by smoking cigarettes. So your body does these things where whatever's stronger actually gets a stronger foothold.
I don't know. I always had the opposite effect with that. Like smoking a cigarette after increases the high. At least it was for me.
Yeah.
So,
well, but you're gay, so.
Well, there you go.
So as long as we're all here and we've all started to get to know each other about the sickness, Britt, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and promote your new show, because you just started a great show and I've listened to the first 2 episodes. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. So I am on Twitter at Tweets by Brit. I started out tweeting about music, but I moved into more politics and the liberty movement. And I just recently started a show with a really great girl called her Twitter handle is Freckled Liberty. Some of you might know her. And we have a show, podcast, YouTube show called Freckles and Brit. We have it on every Monday, and it's basically just the two of us hot taking politics and what we've seen on Twitter that week and people asking us questions. And it's absolutely not snarky at all, except for the first 50.
Why do you lie?
I know. I'm like, how much? Without the mask, I can't. With the mask on, I can't see how much sarcasm you were infusing in that.
The show is about 53 minutes long, and about 52 minutes of it is just snark and our humor. So.
Oh, so it's like the generational gap.
Yeah,
exactly.
We are never snarky, sir.
Yeah, we're always 100% serious all the time. Everything we say is 100% our opinion.
Yeah.
And you, on top of all of this, are deep within the belly of the beast. Is that correct?
You mean her living in California?
Yes, that is exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
I am. In fact, when you guys were talking about your accents and who has the most and who has the least, I was like, all of you people have accents. I don't understand. Yeah, it's pretty crazy here right now. I think our governor just tried to declared us a nation state, and he is
Really?
just going.
Collects it's gonna happen.
Nice.
Awesome.
I'm like, I've been adamantly defending California on Twitter for years now, saying it's not all of us. But now I'm starting to feel like maybe a kidnapping victim. So I might need someone to come in and get me out of here.
You got Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Is this making people in California miss Arnold?
You know what? People in California aren't allowed to talk or look at each other right now, so I wouldn't know. But 2 things happened that actually made me extremely joyful in the last couple of weeks. One, my husband was picking up ammunition at the gun shop. I don't know what that real term for it is. I just call them gun shops. And he said the line was around the corner. And he also found it humorous that people were getting upset that they had to take like a firearm safety test. They were like, why can't I just buy firearms? This is ridiculous. And it goes back to what I think about most Californians, where they think everyone is stupid and unprepared and ignorant except for them. So the rules don't apply to them. And it kind of made me smile. And then also along those lines, that so many people are realizing how important their Second Amendment right is. So
Nice.
It just kind of brought joy to my heart. So
if I remember correctly, though, California was one of the first states to institute a statewide lockdown. Am I correct?
Yes, I think we were the second. I'm not sure if I think we were the first, but it started in San Francisco and then went to the full state. I think so. That's how it started, kind of San Francisco and then the state of New York. and then all of California.
I mean, I'm not gonna promote the efficacy of the lockdowns as a whole, but I got to give them props for at least taking that initiative and trying to do that, because once you're in the scenario, once it's got to happen, start happening, I was like, well, damn, there they go, they're getting fierce with this shit.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it would have been done a different way. Where I'm at first it was a little scary, just going back to like the gun shops, them closing all of them initially, and the LA sheriff basically coming in and saying that he was in charge, and gun stores aren't essential businesses, and then the city and a lot of people pushed back and like, what are you talking about? And they reopened them. And actually out here where I'm at, I called to make sure that we could pick up some things that we had ordered that unfortunately were lost in a boating accident on the way home. Then
Oh, real quick. We have a Freedom Scoop remote donor. Don't know who that is, for $20. And then a Souk Madik for $10.
Oh, we're reaching out all the way to Arabia.
Apparently, yeah.
Hasook. Thank you, Hasook.
That's a good one. All right, so I wish I could like play some music and make it exciting, but I am trying to raise awareness. Okay, so I gotta put this back on.
yes.
You might want to learn how to put that on
You
pretty
need the
quick,
Dark Knight music track or the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I don't feel alone in my overprotectiveness.
And now I have to talk as a mom. I have to talk as a mom with a face mask up, and then you have to be careful in the coronavirus. Start to talk as Obama with the face mask on for sure.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
sufficiently
He
protected,
is
Steve.
Robert also has a gas mask. So
I mean, if you're gonna protect yourself, go all
Could be
out.
the only one without a mask.
I have the extra
Like a
ones.
handkerchief.
I got extra masks.
I
Yeah,
want
There you go, Robert.
that
Yeah.
looks tight, dude.
That's
Robert's
good.
got the real deal.
Yeah.
It's extremely tight. I can't breathe.
I think that might defeat the purpose.
know you're safe.
That's cool,
Yeah.
dude. Is that like a real?
No, I just never want it to be said I'm not prepared.
Oh, damn.
I'll still say it just because
I
you
need
don't
to
want it to
upgrade.
be.
Do what?
I'll still say it just because you don't want it to be. You know me.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that's. I hope I never have to use that.
Yeah,
But my wife has been seeing people come into her store just like that, in like full trash bag clothing with fucking major masks on like that. They're just.
Oh yeah, I've
not
had people walk in with gas masks before. Yes.
not
Wow.
suggesting it to anyone. Obviously, this is immoral and just bad. But if you ever wanted to rob a place, I'm just saying that with the mask on like that, might help you get away with it a little bit. Just saying.
I will say this: Walmart is pretty strong about having people at the front checking your purchases as you're going out and everything. But all that's gone out the window. My wife said, it's just they're counting people coming in and just trying to maintain the lower levels of occupants in the building, and they're like not checking shit. She's like, if people just wanted to walk out with TVs, they could.
Nice.
Are you suggesting
You heard it
something?
here first, guys.
I do not condone this kind of activity.
Yeah, where's the disclaimer?
Yeah. We don't
But
have
that-
a disclaimer inlay anymore, so we can't put it up.
But I will say this: I got to give props. I went to the grocery store yesterday, and I typically shop at Aldi. Man, they have gone above and beyond. I mean, they have got, you go down the aisles, and they've limited what you can buy on almost everything. They've got limits of how much you can get posted on the shelves. They've got one-way signs so that they control flow of traffic all the way through the store. 6-foot markers set all the way throughout the store so that you're never close to anybody as long as you're paying attention and doing the right thing. And typically, at Aldi, they have I don't know if any of you shopped at them, but they have the carts on a quarter system. You put a quarter in, you get your cart, put it back, get your quarter back.
Mhm.
They loaded the amount of carts that they're allowed to have people in the store with quarters, and they've got a guy
Wow.
standing out there in the heat of Florida all day. When a
Oh,
cart comes
fuck.
back, he's wiping it down, keeping it clean, loading people with
Sanitizing
carts.
it.
They better
They
be
are-
paying
they
him
are-
better because
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they did. Aldi has. They've started paying $2 an hour more for wages for essential workers, plus bonuses, additional bonuses for them to get through this. They are really stepping up their game as far as following the rules and doing the right things because we're all forced into this situation right now. So mad props to them.
So I got a
Wow.
couple things
Yeah,
to talk about from the chat here. I got one on the phone from the R-rated conservative. Let me pull that up over here. Says, dude, Trump is doing the presser now, more like exactly in 14 minutes at 1:29. Unfortunately, transmitting that would probably get the stream shut down, and we
Yeah.
don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
it would.
Really?
Probably.
Yep.
for
Shit.
sure.
I do it every day.
Oh shit!
But-
guys, hang
Dude,
on, hang
Depends
doing
on
that.
if you're streaming it from a network
hang
or
on,
not.
guys.
Oh,
We got a $100 donation here from Tenchi,
wow.
Shit,
Awesome.
mad
Yeah.
props to my cousin. That's my cousin, folks.
and Anonymous gives $10. So we're
Anon.
at 260 now.
Damn.
Oh,
So the
that's
song
awesome.
happens at 500, right?
Yep.
The song happens at 500.
Yep,
All
500.
right.
So we're
You
You
more
better
than
start
halfway
thinking.
there.
You're halfway
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to start until we get to 500. I'm gonna do the whole process in like an hour.
Nice.
The only problem I have with the president's press briefings is I keep seeing tweets almost every day afterwards. He's talking about the ratings. He's like, we're getting higher ratings than everybody. My
We're
ratings
getting
are through
Super
the
Bowl
roof. I'm
level
like, what the
ratings.
fuck?
I mean,
This
where's
is not
the
true.
lie though? Where's the lie?
But no, it's just like, this is not The Apprentice. This is just,
Oh, this is the
Joe
apprentice.
is doing it.
Yeah,
well,
it
I
is,
guess
man.
kind of it is.
Yes, it is.
Federal
Yeah, it is.
apprentice.
Yeah. This
His
is-
whole life is his show, man.
This is television.
Yeah.
I wonder if he walks away and asks, "Hey, you guys think I did a good job?" And someone goes, "Well, the ratings were high."
Yeah.
Right.
How many live viewers do we have?
I picture
He
him like
likes-
calling up the Fox and being like, "What was the ratings? Tell me." It's like, I want to know. It's like,
Right? How are my ratings?
It's like a little kid.
Yeah,
that's how I picture. Like he has their number. He just like calls them.
Yeah, he was really excited. I think it was yesterday. He was like, "We beat out The Bachelor. We beat out the football game. We've got the highest ratings of anybody in the nation. The economy's going to be great."
I sort of assumed that Donald Trump and Sean Hannity talk at night before they go to bed, like
Like Sweet
That's-
Nothings.
like Sweet
think-
Nothings.
I
Yeah,
thought Hannity talked
They're like-
Donald Trump in every night.
No,
yeah.
you think?
There's something
No,
going.
Sean.
There's some.
I was gonna say, yeah, you think they're like laying on their stomach on the bed with their feet up or their legs up, you know?
I can, but I could just hear
pulling
him.
the cord.
No,
and the phone,
You
No,
hang
Sh-
up first.
Yeah, no,
you hang up
Sean.
first.
Yeah.
you hang up first, Sean. You hang up first, Sean. I'm the best hanger upper.
Leave it there while you sleep. Leave it there while you sleep, Sean. Let's sleep on the phone together.
My
Oh my
hang
God.
my hang-ups get the best ratings.
He's like, I snore, but so do you.
Oh god, it's almost like you're here with me. Yeah, oh my
Sick.
god.
I can't wait to be together. I can't wait till Melania dies next week. Like,
Oh.
He can just leave her batteries out, and that'll be
he
that.
just disconnects. He's .exe, like reset.exe. That go, like, yeah. Anyway.
She was just learning to love.
We're going to hell, folks,
Yeah. No,
and you're all coming with us.
That's right.
they can't
But is
stop
it-
us all.
Unless
But the
you
real-
donate to the GoFundMe, then you'll
Right.
Then you go to heaven instantly.
Yeah.
That's right. It's like instantly, as in, sorry, you're gonna
Right
die.
now.
You know,
Like storm area 51, and then there's like storm Antarctica. They can't stop us all. Like the final one is like storm heaven. God can't
you
keep us
saw
all.
jump the border wall in heaven.
Like, guys, we have the numbers.
Yeah.
God outlaws chain migration.
Oh,
So it is Good Friday, right?
Yeah.
It is.
It's so far, you know.
And this is what's good about it is this stream. That's
That's
what
right.
makes it Good Friday.
Well, it's what makes it go from Good Friday to Amazing Friday.
Yeah, that's right.
indeed.
Okay, so I want to put a question out there to everybody, and So right now we're looking at about, I think the latest numbers are somewhere in the range of 14,000 people have passed away from this, right? And we've got I think it's still less than 500,000 that have been infected with this. Um, should we be continuing with any of this? Are those numbers small enough that this is, I mean, 330 million people in this country, are those numbers adequate for continuing to do this versus just letting it run?
Well, we will let sweet. Oh, go ahead, Jessica. You had
Yeah,
your hand raised.
I think we should end. We've done the 2 weeks that was suggested by the federal government initially, just about, I think. And after that, we need to reopen the economy. The fallout and the butcher's bill from this economic shutdown is gonna, be on par with some of what we're losing from coronavirus. So I think that there needs to be a balance struck here, and I'd like to see us reopen the economy as soon as possible.
More
I'd like to get
importantly,
a
my
haircut
bar
at
is
some point.
closed. So.
What?
What was that, John?
Oh, I was saying. More importantly, my bar is closed. So yeah, that needs to reopen.
Yeah.
John, your bar never closes. It's the Winn-Dixie fucking liquor store across the street. That's still
Yeah.
essential business. I don't
It
know what
is,
you're
too.
talking about.
It
Your
is.
bar closes. Your bar is right in
I
front.
even panic bought like $200 worth of alcohol. Not all my own. I didn't just spend all that money, but me and another friend spent about $200 between the two of us.
Do you still have some?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's all gone.
No, not yet.
He is Irish.
Yeah.
Wyatt, you work in an essential industry, right? Your company.
Yes, I work at a grocery store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have are they feeling an impact? You don't have to call out the name of the grocery store, but is your store feeling an impact from this to the better or the worse? I think grocery stores are actually probably doing pretty damn good in this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we well, in the part of Texas I lived in, we got hit hard by Harvey a couple of months ago at this point, maybe even a year. And so the store made, I think, like 2.7 million within like a 2-day period. We made 3.7 million 2 weeks ago in a 2-day period. So the store chain, and that was just our store, not the chain. That was just our location. So we've been very busy. And you were mentioning like at Aldi's it was, which side note, we just recently got one near where I lived, and I walked in it the other day. But anyway, but it's very different than the store I worked in, and I was wanting to check it out. And they had the same implements you were talking about at your location, so they probably did it throughout their whole chain. And that's kind of what the store I work at is doing as well. Is they have the 6 feet markers like you were talking about. They don't have the one-way aisles, but they do have stickers across the entire store where you should stand to like wait for people when they're shopping at for canned beans or whatever it might be. And then once you actually check out, they have this like plexiglass shield in front of the cashier and baggers. And the customer has to stand in front of that shield until we finish the order before they can pay. So that gives like the bagger the 6 feet from the customer. And if they just want to pay, we have to stop. And so it's a whole system we have to follow. And uh, it's becoming very hard to follow for cashiers because what they're telling us to do is if the customer reaches over to like put their card in, because a lot of people out of habit just want to put their card in to pay once they see it finished but not bagged, we're supposed to stop. But obviously that's going to make customers annoyed, and it has made some customers annoyed. So it's kind of changed the business model of the chain, because the chain before then was more kind of like customer friendly compared to like a Kroger, because that's their biggest competitor really. And it's HEB, I don't mind saying that. That's their biggest competitor is Kroger as far as Texas goes. And so they're always about the customer. So like whatever the customer wants to do is right is kind of their whole motto. But that's kind of flipped over during this. So now it's almost becoming distancing from the customer in that way as well. But so there's so many different limitations, and recently they're making us wear a mask. It was optional before, but now we have to wear a mask for cashier and baggers. and managers for that matter. So all employees are wearing masks.
Are they providing
And-
them?
Yes, they provided them. Yes.
Okay, that's good.
And you get 3 masks, and you have to number them. And anyway, long story short, you have to like a process of hanging the mask for them to dry. Like we have to follow this whole procedure for the mask we wear. But the weird thing I've always thought was we're not wearing gloves because they thought that would scare customers. And this was before the mask. But even now, we're still not allowed to wear gloves. But I was thinking that you would want to wear gloves before you would wear a mask, kind of as a logical step. But they kind of skipped over that part. But I don't know. I don't really know what I think of the whole situation. Like, I didn't really want to wear a mask mainly because of personal comfort, because it is very hot, especially when you're moving around. And I would say the way the grocery chain works, and I think every chain probably works this way too, but even though you're a cashier, you sometimes won't be cashier for a couple of hours and you'll be a bagger. And especially since we've been so busy, occasionally you get moved departments, so you might be putting produce up or putting tissue papers or hand sanitizer. You know, these items would get taken away very fast. And I don't think I mentioned this yet, but we also have limits. The limits were a lot larger. We had this yellow sheet what was front and back at one point about the limits, and most of them were in the computer system. So it would catch it and you would just put it aside. But some of them aren't. But like now we don't have any limits for meats when we had limits for meats. Like it was 4 chicken, and that was any chicken. So not just like ground, you know, well, I guess for ground beef, it's not just like any product, I guess you would say, has a limit. Now that's gone, but there's still like limits for frozen vegetables, canned beans, tissue paper, hand sanitizer, toilet paper, towels. You know, there's still a lot of limits.
Right. Which is smart.
Yeah, right. And that's just to help customers as a whole get products, because a lot of customers get annoyed when they can't get their products that they used to get as a whole. Like a lot of people for like canned beans would get, you know, this amount of canned beans for the week because they would have it for the lunches, and now they can't because they only can get 4 or whatever it might be. So, and I can understand the customer's frustration, but what the managers have told us and what I think as well is that they're trying to make sure that everybody has a chance to get the products, which I think is the way it should be. Excuse
Reminds
me. So
me
that's
of
why.
rationing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it basically is rationing. Yeah.
Tenchi says his local grocery store has been out of ramen and he's pissed.
Nice.
Mine is too. The ramen went first.
Makes sense.
I think you can order that on Wish
Oh,
and get it sent. I think you can get it sent straight from China with no issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
fantastic.
can find it with a hand sanitizer on Wish that I'm sure is perfectly safe.
Right. Well, from what I understand,
Yes,
the
of course.
ramen is completely bat free. So
So it's got lots of fat.
I'll tell you this: you get me a big steel wash tub and some copper tubing, I will make you all the hand sanitizer you need.
Nice.
all the hand sanitizer I need, because I use a
And
lot.
a little bit of corn too, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I was
does a
gonna
lot.
say, is that
It
hand
does a
sanitizer
lot
you
more
can
than.
drink?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this about the lockdowns. I have determined that they were completely pointless as soon as they did not shut airports down for intercontinental flights. If you're not going to shut down the airports, there's no point in having lockdowns of any states or anything like this, because you're just, you're allowing people to move it around. I mean, how many people were scrambling from New York coming to Florida?
I mean, how many assholes went from DC to Texas recently? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, what the hell?
These assholes flying in planes.
You can neither confirm nor deny.
That's what I was like. That's a target right there.
Yeah. That was very specific. Yeah.
Yo, dox me, bro. Come on. We got feds
I
watching.
don't believe he said any names. He just said assholes.
Yeah, just generally. Yeah.
The answer is all of them. Every single asshole in DC went to Texas recently, and there's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of assholes in DC. I can confirm that. Oh.
Well,
But
So,
I don't know. Go ahead. You're reading chats?
no, I
yeah,
was gonna
yeah.
say let's
Yeah.
throw
Hit
the question down to our guest for the day.
Before we do that, though, we actually have another donation.
Shut up.
I got a donation.
A Mr. D's Nuts
Ooh.
gave $5. So
Man,
thank you for that.
$5.
I've
Nice.
met
Thank you,
I've met
Deez.
these
Thank-
nuts. I have met these nuts.
You know, I've met
Yeah.
a lot of people with that name. Oddly enough.
Are you too close, Robert?
Hmm?
Are you too close? You and Mr. D's?
Within arm's reach.
Excellent. You're supposed to stay 6 feet away, though, right?
265. Cool. That's good. That's a good amount.
Yeah, we're
Almost-
getting there.
Almost at the song. You think we're gonna get there?
Yeah,
you know,
thank you, Henry.
some is more than none, and that's what I'll always say when we do these charity streams.
Oh,
As
yeah.
long as we're getting something out there, and then we can put something back into it, because people like Wyatt and nurses and doctors, those people are out there doing some major shit right now. I mean, my wife. I mean, you know, it's weird. Like when every day she comes home from work, I have to start a new 2-week countdown.
Yeah.
You know, it's just knowing that I got to start that new 2-week countdown. You know, I don't want to get this fucking thing. She doesn't want to get this fucking thing, but people, I don't know, man. She's like, people have where they're in her store, they just don't have this concept of keeping distance. They'll just come right up to ask for something right in her face, and she's like, dude, you know, excuse me while I back the fuck up, and then I can answer your question. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's surreal. It's a surreal moment in our lives.
Yeah, and I think we're all just sort of figuring out how to react to it, because it's not something that any of us have been around long enough to experience. We've been in like an upward trend of prosperity for a really long time, and nothing like this that affects our sense of security in this way. I mean, I would even say that on some psychological levels, this is worse than something like 9/11, because that happened in one place. This is happening everywhere, all at the same time.
Right.
It's like you couldn't run away if you wanted to. Where are you going to go? You know, I'm sure they got it on Fiji too. So, and I think by the time the state realized they had to do anything about it, it was already too late. Like,
oh, absolutely.
My reference to this, of course, is like pandemic video games. But by the time the state was forming a task force, I was like, oh, it's already here, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I told, John and I were talking. I don't know if we talked about it on stream or off mic, but I was like, this is very much for me like Plague Inc. The mobile game. It's like every time I start the game, I start off in China, because if you want something to spread around the world, drop it in China and it'll get there.
Yep.
It's really I don't understand, or I don't know. I don't mean to be a negative Nancy here, but I think this is exposed the selfishness of our culture. Like, it's like, where is your sense of community when someone's telling you as a whole, do your best to prevent the spread of this by, here in Florida is like, fuck no, we're on spring break. We're not going anywhere. We're having fun. We're going to have a good time. And if we get it, we'll take it back and we won't know it and we won't care. It's like, come on,
Somebody's apple just went off.
That was not me.
Definitely not me.
It won't. I keep trying to silence it, but it's not going to happen because I don't know what I'm doing. So
okay.
It won't stop because of operator error.
So
what do they call that? The ID10T error?
Let's throw the question about the economy down to our guest, Britt.
Oh, gosh.
What should we be doing at this point?
Oh, I think that once this quarantine is up, we do need to start reopening the country. I agree with Jessica with pretty much everything she said. I think if this had gone about a different way, where we encourage social distancing and just made it clear how easy it is to get this, as opposed to like my state just locking people down, maybe things could have been different. But just because we're such individuals, like Americans are like individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why things went the way they went, but at the same time, if we don't open up our economy again, people are going to be out on the streets. People are going, I mean, just an example, my mortgage is due. I probably have 3 or 4 months where I can pay it. When I talked to the bank about, hey, what do I do if this goes on longer than that? They said, well, we can offer you forbearance, but you'd have to pay, upwards of $18,000-$20,000 at the end of the 6 months. And I think that we're not really looking at that 6 months down the road because everybody's so panicked about this virus. I don't know that the numbers warrant what we've done. I'm not an economist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just looking at it as a person that's going, I can get by now. And I'm very lucky to be in a position that I can get by for a couple months. But there's a lot of people that can't. And there's a lot of people that have that tsunami of financial impact that's going to hit them if we don't do something. So we have to figure out a way to let people get back to work. And I hate saying this because there's no black or white, but we might just have to accept the fact that some people are going to have to take the risk of getting sick. And it's just a harsh, mean thing to say. I don't know how else to really put it out there, but I mean, we have two problems. We have to pick which one is going to be the greater impact to our lives long term.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be said for there are other things in this country that kill far more people every year. Just the regular flu itself winds up killing more people than this has so far. And we don't see this major, panic go on every year when flu season rolls around. It's, and it's obvious that to a certain extent, social distancing without a police state isn't working. So, why go on?
I agree with you. I also kind of wonder, I totally lost my train of thought because I was trying not to cough. But I mean, I really do wonder how long we can go on in this way, especially I'm one of those people that is starting to believe, and just from things we're seeing, are all of these deaths, are every single one of them, are they that are attributed to COVID-19?
No.
They're not. You can go into
Hell
a
no.
heart attack
Yeah.
if you test positive for COVID. That's what they're putting. So are these death numbers really as high as the media is making it out to
There's
be?
problems on every step of the testing thing. There's fudgery with the numbers on every step of this whole thing, from both the USA and China, for sure. Like the tests are not all legit. They're all a bunch of different ones. I was looking this up before the stream. Like there's some serious fuckery going on for sure. That's
and I've read a couple of articles that have talked about how there are respiratory deaths or heart deaths that are being associated with coronavirus, which are not necessarily anything to do with it. Just because the person may have had the coronavirus, they weren't symptomatic, but they died from these things, but they're getting lumped into it simply because they had the virus at the same time.
Yeah.
And so
they act like the numbers are gospel in these pressers and shit. Yeah.
And they're changing on a rolling tally. The other thing that's really bothers me is anytime a young person or moderately young person dies, they immediately say, well, they had no underlying symptoms. How in the course of just a few minutes from somebody dying to it going on air, do you know that person had no underlying problems? Under what HIPAA hell law did you get all that information? Because I don't believe you.
Right.
I don't believe you. I'm sure there's a lot of people that did have no underlying symptoms. They died from this because that happens with the flu. That happens with pneumonia. That happens with all kinds of things. And I'm sure that's the case, but I don't know that every one of these. I mean, we just had a case the other day. I think it was Connecticut, maybe one of them, where they said that a baby had died from COVID-19. That the governor had tweeted that out, and then when pushed, it turns out that baby had accidentally been. Something had happened to that baby at home.
She was cannibalized. She was eaten. She was actually.
They actually ate the baby's face.
We needed soup.
She was eaten.
But something else had happened to this baby, but because they tested positive in the hospital, that's what they linked it to. And the governor saying that, and then the news media jumping on that as a parent, it infuriates
Yeah.
me because it sends panic.
Absolutely.
I mean, I mentioned it when I first came on. My son has type 1 diabetes. He is immune compromised. I am terrified right now that if he gets this, what's it going to mean? Not because I think that he can't make it through this, but because I can't take him to hospital right now. I mean, the kid had strep throat and went into diabetic ketoacidosis. Like, so for the news to put out there, oh, a baby died of this, when that's not the case, that is so disgustingly vile and irresponsible. It makes me hard to trust any of the numbers they're putting out. It just makes it hard to trust anything that is being told to us about this.
So does that give credence in your mind to the mindset that in a situation like this, the media needs to be controlled? I mean, how do you stop all the misinformation?
No, I don't. I'm not saying the media needs to be controlled. I'm saying that individuals need to inform themselves, that the media is slanted. And I am not talking about CNN. I'm not talking about Fox. I'm not talking about MSNBC. I'm talking about all of them.
Right.
And you need to sift through, you need to inform yourself, and you need to really, I'm going to just give the advice my grandma gave me when I was 8 years old. If somebody is trying to sell you something, ask yourself why they want you to believe that. Like,
Right.
what is their end game always? And that's what I've been asking myself. Why are they saying this if it's clearly not, COVID, if it's clearly not this? There's other things going on. And so it's hard for me to just, digest what they're trying to feed me constantly. And I just think in general, we should just be weary of it.
Well, I kind
Yeah,
of went to the darkest place on that too when we were talking about what was attributed to the disease and what wasn't. Because I said, I mean, if some furloughed worker loses his job and he can't feed his family and he goes and grabs a 45 and blows his fucking brains out and he tests positive for COVID, they're going to count that as a COVID death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
COVID
You know-
related. They might call it
Wow.
COVID related.
Oh my god, this language thing.
Anytime it
It's
says
probably the worst.
related, if it says linked to, related, in my mind, that means has nothing to do with it. Like
Right.
that's just
Right.
where.
Yeah.
Yeah, because to be honest, I don't think I've seen any definitive proof that this virus alone can kill you. It's from everything I've understood so far is that it requires underlying symptoms are always going to be the trigger that causes deaths.
Well, that was what I saw in the article I read this morning on Contemporary, too. The first death in Brown County, Wisconsin, which is where Green Bay is, which is a huge city. So this is the first death that they've had up there, but the guy had been in and out of the hospital for the last 2 months.
Right.
And I mean, I live in Los Angeles County, and I could be wrong. I could have missed the news. I could have, it could have just been something I didn't catch. But we have a huge, overwhelming homeless population, and we're not hearing about COVID deaths in the homeless population.
It's exactly where you would expect to hear it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had like typhoid, some crazy disease out here that came back and just ripped through the homeless population. It was all over the news. And it's like we don't hear anything about COVID, like nothing. It's not like an individual that may have died that they're just not reporting on. We should be hearing mass numbers of the homeless population have died because of COVID-19, are hospitalized, are in quarantine, shelters are being shut down, shelters are being converted into, quarantine centers. None of the things that you would think. And
is it possible that that's because, for want of a better term, homeless people already have social distancing inherently built into who they are? The only people that are really around are other homeless people, because those of us who aren't homeless typically shy away from them, so they're not coming in contact, they're not flying on planes,
Nah, man.
not going to big events.
They go to like soup kitchens and shit and they're out in the community more than you think.
They're out. I mean, out here, if I went down to North Hollywood, I would see a homeless person, I would say every 20, 25 feet.
Yeah.
In some places. I every freeway corner, and a lot of them congregate in the same place in the evening for safety, and just because that's where a lot of them keep their things. They have a community. We don't see it. We don't like to look at it. We don't like to talk about it, but they have a community, and they're in close quarters with each other. So
Sure, but Joe Blow businessman that just flew in from China doesn't go hang out with the homeless people and bring them to Wuhan. You know,
but people are still getting this without being in direct contact with somebody that's been in China. I mean,
well, right. I was just using that as an example more than anything. It's just, those people that, there's there's always a separation between the homeless and the haves and the have-nots, as it were, to a certain extent.
There could be it makes sense to say that there might be a population, like a population buffer that's prevented it from jumping yet, as of yet. But I do think it's an interesting point that the community that's basically lacking in nutrition, basically having all the things that would qualify as a pre-existing condition that would rip through that community, and they're seeming to lag behind everyone else who's getting it. Yeah. And, that is a fascinating point, Britt.
When you have so many comorbidities in just one area, it just seems strange to me. And also another thing I noticed outside of the homeless population is we're not seeing extremely huge numbers that came out of like areas like Las Vegas, who by all accounts has way more travelers from different places, I would say, than Los Angeles on any given minute. I mean, we obviously have tons. We're a hub for the world for traveling and things like that, but the numbers aren't like super out of control there, and that's strange. Although that could also be explained by a lot of people just going home and taking it home. I am wondering, actually, I was there over Thanksgiving and had these same type of symptoms. My husband did too, where we were sick for weeks. My husband was way worse right after Thanksgiving, and we kind of wondered, did this come into the country a lot earlier than we thought, and we already had it, and maybe that's why it's not as horrible as it was when I first had it, when I was sick in November.
Because there is some speculation that after having it and coming through it, your buffer may run out in about 6 months. So they're saying people who are getting over it now in September, October may run the chance of being infected again. But what about this idea that there are people that are immune to this? Like they're supposedly they're working on a test to find people that are immune to this.
Well, what I saw this morning, once again going back to the show that I did this morning, is Fauci was talking about a test coming shortly to see who has the antibodies that are taking this down, to see who has already had it.
Right.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's people that are immune to a lot of things. Just completely unscientific. I'm wondering if people that maybe still have their tonsils might not get as bad of a lung infection because it stays more in their throat, which is totally unscientific, not medically proven. It's just something that I've kind of noticed, people that tend to still have their tonsils tend to not get pneumonia as much. There is probably some science, maybe not. I don't know.
Let's do a tonsil roll call real quick. Who still has their tonsils in this room?
I do.
Yeah, I do.
I have no idea.
You have no idea, Robert? I think you would know.
I really don't. I don't remember ever having my tonsils out, but
the 70s were a weird time, man.
Yo,
most of my early memories are all black anyway. I don't, so.
I'm not sure about much in this like virus situation. I'm still doing like a lot of my own research. I'll tell you what though, I am not buying what this Fauci deep state ass fake ass doctor is selling me.
Chairman Fauci.
I do not buy what this little ass fake ass doctor is selling. Like, not for a fucking second, or the WHO or the CDC. I do not trust them for a fucking second. So if a new thing comes out about what that dude says, I'm just gonna keep eating natural foods.
Well, then that begs the question. So then that begs the question, Stephen. Where do you get what doctor do you look to get trustworthy information? You know what I'm
What?
saying? I mean, where do we find the best information on this?
Why are you asking me? Are you asking me or we?
Well, starting
My
with you.
opinion
I
on
mean,
me
we as a population, where do we
I
get the
don't worry
best
that much about
information?
that. I don't worry about that much about us as a population. There's no such thing as us as a population. Like that's what us as a population is 9 million little groups, and that's made up of billions of little individuals. But there's no such thing. There's never been a defined thing as us as a population. It's never been a monolith ever, like ever. Even like the Mongols had like diversity. You know,
Well, I understand that. I'm talking about the citizen. Let me say the citizenry of the country
doesn't
then.
exist as a
Who
as
do
a,
we-
as a
who-
monolith.
Okay, well, we're all within
Well-
one continent and one country. So who do we go for information to get the right information
This-
in this country?
The solution to all this shit is decentralization, no matter what. In like every single way. But I'm just saying, like this idea that like that a country is thought a singular way, that has never really been a thing. It's always been a battle all the time.
Yeah. I think maybe we have this idea that we have to go to experts to look at data for us.
Yeah,
And we all say, I'm not good enough to do this math in my head, or I don't understand how these charts work. So
Yeah.
I need an expert to read them to me. But at the end of the day, we have a vast wealth of information on the internet that you can go and in fact teach yourself how to read this data.
Yeah.
And all of these politicians that are making these decisions for our entire economy and our entire globe, basically, they're also relying on people to tell them what the score is. And so I think in the vein of decentralization, you need to look at the data for yourself. And that is complex and scary. And you're going to have to teach yourself how to read different types of charts. And that's basically what I've found myself doing through all of this is I've been on Google Scholar reading scientific papers that I barely understand. But I by the way, I have 3/4 of a biology degree and I barely understand these papers. But, you know,
I'm screwed.
the math. One thing that was disturbing for me, not to go off topic, but it's sort of related, is that at first we were told that the surgical masks are not protective gear. And then we were told, well, they won't work for you, but they will work for healthcure workers. And now it's like
with this bullshit. Yeah.
and now it's like cut up your Van Halen t-shirt and
Fuck
wear
outta
it on
here,
your
yeah.
face. So I was like, okay, I need to go find out whether masks work or not. And there are hundreds of studies that have already been conducted on masks preventing, you know, flu transmission and stuff like that I availed myself of. And I was like, oh, very plainly so, masks work. And it was my bad because I relied on someone else to inform me whether masks work or not. I relied on the World Health Organization and the CDC to tell me whether masks work or not. And that's not what I should have done. I should have been at my own information source. And we have the availability on Google Scholar. You know, YouTube's not the best for information, but there are places like Nature, for example, nature.com. You can get these papers. A lot of them are free to the public, and it takes a little bit of slogging through and looking things up as you go, but you can get through them yourself. And so that's what I encourage.
Hey, I have a question.
Cool.
Does a
You have
Van Halen
answers.
t-shirt work better than a Def Leppard t-shirt?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Only if it's Van Halen and not Van Hagar. If it's Van Hagar, it doesn't work at all.
I could,
Van Hagar. Yeah.
And they
I-
are both coronavirus.
I can tell you the Def Leppard would definitely work better than Van Halen for one specific reason. You can rip an arm off of one of those Def Leppard shirts and it will still work.
It'll still drum just fine. Yeah.
Are we going on the theory that diseases stop other diseases still? Because that might be a factor here.
Yeah.
I think none of us.
So, what do we
Van
have?
Hagar is cancer. Yeah.
There's that meme of Keith Richards where it's like, if it gets this one, we know it's real. like, like we'll know it's a disaster.
That's good.
You know, I can appreciate what you say, Jessica, about that, about the information. But again, you know, we're in a, you know, from the very beginning of this, there's been so much misinformation from every source, conflicting information, I should say, from every source. So when you jump on, you know, the Google and you start pulling up information, again, it's like, okay, you know, how many various sources of information am I going to get? How do I disseminate what is rational and what's not, and what is, for want of a better term, coming from expert science versus agenda science?
Right. Yeah, that's a worry, and it's hard to separate agenda science from legitimate science because legitimate science has been so polluted with people who are out to secure their own funding rather than actually pursue science. So, I mean, you can say that, you know, somebody who wants to make it seem like their drink will make you lose 30 pounds can come up with some junk science or a junk paper to say that it does that. But you have that going on in the highest levels of science today. My husband is a working scientist, and I am almost all the way through my science degree. And something that they sit you down and teach you in school is that it is as corrupt as anything else.
They
And
teach you that in school?
yes, yeah,
Wow.
and they say you have to make some choices about whether you want funding or you want to do science.
Do you get to
Like,
ask what about you though?
what
To
about
your
me?
no, to the teachers. You
Yeah,
as the
the
student. Can I be
yeah.
like, are you talking about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My organic
Cool.
chemistry teacher was very blunt with us about it, and he had worked in industry and he had worked in government.
Sweet.
And he was like,
Cool.
"Look, you know, you sell if you want to make money in this industry, you sell your soul." And you know, it depends on what kind of work you
dark.
wanted. Yeah. It's but
Wow.
I found the teachers in the I'm in biology, so I wasn't really like in the math departments or anything like that. That's why I can't get through Orgo 2 right now, but that's another story. So yeah, they were very honest with us that the biology field is very, very political. Yeah, there and
I believe it, but it's just like,
Yeah.
man, if bio is compromised, then
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, when it's all said and done, I keep looking at it. When I look at all these things, I see this doctor says this, or this organization says this politician says this. I keep getting the feeling that the bulk of the information that's coming out is from sources that want to be the hero that that solved the coronavirus issue, as opposed to the person that is just trying to get people well. You know, I mean, it's like I don't want to read anything.
That's kind of what I'm saying. It's way easier to be able to tell like who not to trust than who to trust. I don't know exactly who to trust. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like run a show. It's because I can just do it all myself, and then I can trust myself. You know, I guess kind of. But I can tell you, not Fauci. I'm telling you, I can tell you right now that little grabbler is not to be like trusted
I
whatsoever.
know the squealers. And...
Yo, seriously,
Yeah,
dude's a straight up squealer.
So,
Like,
since we've got
he's-
into this topic here, I do want to throw another question out to the round table here. And I actually want to throw it to Wyatt first because he's been kind of quiet throughout this entire thing. But what do you think
Quiet
about
Birkenhoff. Sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of Wyatt, he actually just donated $15. So
Nice.
280, dude. Thank you, Wyatt. You're awesome.
what do we think about this
Thank you,
war
sir.
on hydroxychloroquine, though?
Oh, that's infuriating, dude. It's crazy. Why can't people just take the drug they want? And this shit is like, dude. There's like we've proven that most people are just bootlickers, dude. Like most people are just ready to lick the boot. But like,
Yeah.
dude, let people have the freedom to try shit.
If you want to drink bleach, drink bleach.
Yeah,
Right.
I support that. I do. I support
want
people.
to.
Yeah,
Didn't
I
we
don't.
just pass a right to try act?
Yeah, I keep
Like,
bringing that up too when I talk about hydroxychloroquine. We
mean-
just did.
And it didn't come out that the lady who drank the fish cleaner and then her husband
She
drank
was-
the fish cleaner.
I think she
she's-
tried to kill him, yo. I think.
Yeah.
I think. She,
Yeah.
She-
well,
that-
she succeeded.
that
Sorry.
Carol Baskin.
Carol Ba-
I was gonna say, yeah, the same
That
thing.
bitch, Carol Baskin. She killed her husband.
I don't know. I don't. But like, once I saw that thing come out about like her trying to divorce, like unsuccessfully trying to divorce her husband and them having problems, I was like, damn, we live in a dark. These are dark times, yo.
Yeah.
It's like, damn. So I don't know, man. But they're saying this drug like works in New York. That's what Cuomo's saying, and he hates Trump. So it's like, you know.
Well, but you know this. You know the issue with it is because of all the backstabbing with. Okay, Trump's got a hand. He's got a finger in the market for this drug, right? He's invested in this. I mean, and I saw this in the same article that said that there were a number of Congress people that immediately invested in drug companies at the first hint of this coming into Washington.
Well, we're
And
talking about two different things then, because that first of all, there's none of that matters as far as whether you should, if it works, you should give it to people. If it works, you should give it to people regardless. But those are crimes. That's not cool.
What do you got, Brett?
But
Well, I think it does matter. And I would say this, as a good capitalist, you would want to invest in a product that works. If he thinks it works, whether he's making money off of it or not, it's not going to make money if it kills people and doesn't work. If it works and he makes $1 billion, who cares if people are who lives are being saved? Like who cares as long as it works?
Democrats.
Yeah.
So doesn't him investing in it doesn't him investing in it means he's giving money to the effort of making it happen?
Well, the worst part of this is that his investment is like $100.
Oh God. Well, then maybe we shouldn't use it.
Right. I mean, and see that's what it goes
So
to
dumb.
is the misinformation that muddies the water, that diminishes the trust in the in our citizens to believe the information we're hearing. So, you've got Democrats out there that are listening to Democrats say, "Oh, he's invested in this company. That's why he's pushing it." And they say, "Oh, well, then this obviously can't be a good thing because, the Democrat leadership is telling me orange man bad."
And to them, I would say, if Barack Obama was telling you this exact same information, would you believe it? Don't. It's like, I know we say consider the source, but like, would you just go ahead and just believe that and digest it and say it's great? And because Trump's saying this might work, we're going to say it's bad. If that is your line of thinking, then first of all, why do we care about your opinion? That's ridiculous. Second of all, you need to do a little more research. I mean, we keep hearing this like it's anecdotal. It's anecdotal. Isn't literally every piece of evidence anecdotal?
Yeah, that's what I've been saying too. Literally, anecdotal evidence is evidence. It's literally evidence. Yeah. I've been saying that exact same point. Yeah, it's not a fallacy. Like anecdotal evidence is not a fallacy at all. It's something that happened. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, it's crazy because I've read, I've seen 2 article headlines in the last week. One says that the numbers from this that the projected numbers for this are far lower than they're going to amount to be. And then 3 days later, there's a headline that says the projected numbers for this are far too high for what the actual turnout of this is going to be. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just go bang my head against the fucking door till you guys figure this shit out.
Well, the only way we're going to figure it out is we're going to see what the numbers ended up being next March. That's where it is. I really believe everything else is just speculation at this point. I don't think the numbers were ever going to be as high as they originally said, but
yeah,
I'm like everyone else. We won't know until it's all said and done. I mean, nobody does.
I'm just taking. So far for me, my preventative measure is to stay at home and have sex with my wife, and so far it is working out. It is working out for me. I have not had any symptoms or anything at all, and it seems to be doing okay for her too. She hasn't. I haven't asked. I haven't asked.
That incubation.
You should be able to tell.
That 9-month incubation period, though.
I can't see through the. I can't see through the sheet. I don't know.
Oh my God!
Wow.
I mean, we're doing this from a 6-foot distance. What do you want?
Good shooting, man.
That says a lot about you, though.
Like
Thank you. I'm
store
going to have
measures.
another cigarette.
It's
Hey, I
it's
will
like
say this. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's fine. I'm just making shitty jokes.
No, no, I roll. So.
Well, I
No,
do want to say that Britt was right on the same thing too when she said that what if it was Obama saying the thing. That's something that I do try to bring into every commentary that I make and every opinion that I hear on Twitter is, okay, what would they be saying if this was somebody from the opposite party? And that's really what you have to measure every political commentary through these days.
Yeah.
But with the narrative in Washington, those things don't matter. It doesn't matter. That just becomes, just smoke and mirrors. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to put themselves in somebody else's shoes because they're too busy trying to knock somebody else out of their own. It's whacked out.
Yeah, fuck
that. Because what was it? H1N1? Did Obama shut the fucking country down? Was it H1N1 I'm thinking of, or was it SARS?
Yeah.
No, he didn't shut the fucking country down. He didn't shut the fucking country down. He said, look, be prepared. This is happening. This is what we do, and go on.
Yeah, there's
media
clearly
was so much. go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just saying there's clearly an agenda behind this shit. Fuck them. That's how I kind of approach it. I do my research too. It's like I get what you're saying, like about like educating yourself on like, reading a chart or just being informed. But at this point, it's like you're better off just walking barefoot in your lawn for 18 months. Like that's better than even educating yourself. Like start a fucking farm, plant some shit, and just walk outside.
You know what?
It's all noise.
I'm gonna say this. I think being outside, like physically outside, is much better in this situation than being cooped up in places.
Dude, they want us separated, yo. They clearly want us separated.
You can be outside and be separated. Guess what? There's a lot of fucking room out there. Go outside.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I read something saying during the Spanish flu epidemic that was kind of when they started getting people outside, they had better outcomes. And there's a doctor that knew whatever who's been all over Twitter this week saying people going outside. Obviously, I don't think if you go out and sit in the sun, you're gonna get you're just gonna get healed from the Rona and you'll be good. But I've been taking vitamin D and zinc every day, and I feel like there's a huge difference than obviously how it was at the beginning. And I kind of believe like, hey, maybe there is something to this, and maybe it could have gone, been worse for me. Again, I don't know. I haven't had a test. I don't know if I had that, or if that's what I have, but.
Well, I do know just from my little bit of biology education that because human beings evolved living in sunlight, there's a lot of our biological processes that actually rely on sunlight. Yep. So when you deprive yourself of it, you start not being able to sleep properly. All kinds of things just start breaking down. So I know at the very least that the isolation is working against us, that being inside of our houses, inside of four walls is working against us.
Right. Especially when you've got a family of 6 and one of them goes to the grocery store to get essential needs and then comes back home. Well, now you're just potentially laying it out for 6 people, right? But I think nature has a lot to do with it too, because my wife, I mean, she's an amazing. She's got 12 green thumbs. I mean, it's crazy. We have so many flowers, trees, plants, vegetables, everything growing in this quarter-acre lot. And I am out there in it, letting the plants filter the air I'm breathing, letting nature, everything going around. I honestly believe that is a big protector of because
that's okay. That's nature. What I was gonna say earlier when you like brought up like what source to trust. I mean, the thing is that like I do believe in like biology and what we would call like the scientific method and stuff. I'm not, there's the political thing about science and that sucks obviously, but biology and science didn't like, they confirmed these things. They didn't arrive at these things first. So the things that you can trust is shit that's been around for 2,000 to 3,000 years that has worked the whole time. So it's like natural shit. I mean, and it doesn't mean I'm like anti-science or what. I don't even know what that means anymore because it's become like a buzzword. But the shit you can trust is just old school shit that's confirmed over and over, like garlic and stuff. And I read an article about that, like it's like they're saying garlic cures the virus. Don't believe the hoax. It's like, dude, I'm just saying garlic is good as fuck for you. It always has been.
So during the plague in 1358. The Pope's physician, Guy de Chauliac, contracted the plague. And he lanced his own boils and filled them with onions and garlic. And he was one of the very few people that survived the plague and actually did what we now consider science, which is writing down everything that happened to him.
That's science.
So that's science. And so I was told, I think my dad told me this actually, and he said the only difference between science and screwing around is writing it down.
Yeah, it's cataloging, like you bird watching and like writing down like the leaves on plants, like that shit is science. Like it's just a bunch of things that happened over and over. I
that's what, every day, every morning when I get up, I'm having my cup of coffee and I walk outside. I stick my nose deep into roses. We've got roses growing, big blooms, and I'm just sticking my face in all these flowers and plants and just breathing in, and I'm like, go in there, get rid of toxins. Do poetry. Your thing.
You're fucking learning French. You're sipping.
He's writing like cringy, edgy poetry.
Yeah, that's what happens when you smell roses. That's what roses do to you.
Draw me like one of your French girls.
I mean, because Nate. Oh, go ahead.
That was a nice voice.
Did you hear about Mexico City? They have these towering overpass roads, and they started building these vertical gardens on the
Wow.
pillars that hold them
Cool.
up, and it's actually helping clear. They're a badly polluted city, and it's helping clear a lot of the pollution out of the air in
Wow.
the traffic thing. So there is a lot of truth to the idea that plants will filter out negative things out of the atmosphere.
Yeah. It's like you find out they're owned by the cartels, though.
Whatever it takes,
the,
man.
The Juarez cartel owns it. Like, shit. All right, whatever, dude.
It's actually just growing weed.
It's just
That's
weed.
all it is. Yeah.
It's coca leaves.
Yeah, because you know, the one thing that I see over and over again, nature's not being affected by this. I mean, I literally 2 days ago, my wife and I watched as approximately 8 monarch caterpillars set themselves in chrysalises, preparing and just going on about their natural life and everything. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to just have a flood of them populating our garden. But yeah, I'm like, nature's not being hurt by this. So there's something there, right? I mean, I get it, diseases in people and plants, but still, you know, there's something to it. It's got to be the best solution somehow, some way. That's where we need to look for our solutions. Get the fuck outside, get some fresh air in your lungs, and just go enjoy it, you know, and stay the fuck away from me.
I mean, and certainly if you were going to get the coronavirus, then you would want to enjoy the life that you had before you had it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
go outside.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
That kind of brings up. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
it's fine. I'm fine. Just making stupid jokes left and right. I've got to stop. I'm sorry.
Hey, you can always talk over Steven. It's fine.
Yeah.
You can
We don't
always
care.
do it. It's
No.
fine. I talk so much.
Tenchi makes a good point in the chat there. Outside's gay, though. Yeah, I typically agree with that.
Super gay.
It's
Super
super
gay.
gay.
The sun sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's all hot and like
Yeah.
burns me.
Yeah.
It's
I
bad.
know. What the fuck is it thinking? Give me all that vitamin D. Fuck you, son.
Yeah, what the fuck, man. I didn't ask for that. I did not consent.
Right?
You got the D though.
Vitamin rape. Vitamin rape.
No, you know what, Jessica, you kind of brought up a good point though when you said you want to enjoy the life you had before coronavirus. And the way you said it made me think of how people are framing this as if once you get coronavirus, you have it forever. And that's one of the other things I noticed. It's just really bothers me. It's like most people, more than 80% of people are going to have this for 2 weeks. I don't think that for the rest of my life, I'm going to have a cough or, you know, and again, some people are going to lose their life. Some people are going to have a rougher time. Some people may have lasting damage. Not the majority of people. Our life is not going to be, it's not like, oh my gosh, I have terminal corona, you know, like anybody that gets it is just doomed to have this like horrible life of coughing and chest pain forever. The fear factor in this is that we all know what's coming. We all know the day count. We all have to, if we get it, we know we have to live through it. That's what's scary. What to me is even more scary is the effects that we're doing to this country. Going back to serious, those can be what's long lasting. Those like the chronic failure to be able to pay your bills is what I'm more afraid of, the fallout from this.
Companies too. I mean, you know, big corporations, and of course that filters down to the people that work for them and everything. You know, Logan's Roadhouse. They don't expect that their 236 stores are going to open up after this. They are going to be done as a corporation.
Man.
And yeah, they were already at a point. They were a little bit financially strapped, and they were starting to file Chapter 11 reorganization. And basically, maybe they would have closed a few stores down, but they said they've shut down all their locations, and they are 99% sure they're not going to be able to reopen after this is done. You know, and then, you know, I see this fight about, you know, in Washington, no, we're not going to approve this because it's targeting small businesses or it's, you know, not doing anything for corporations. I don't give a fuck what the business is or how big they are. These are companies that have earned their money. And if they're suffering and you're going to make aid available to companies, it should be available to all companies, no matter how big or small, because every one of them is facing some sort of financial impact, whether it be through their employees or whether it be through their bottom line, and stop the squabbling. So if you're going to do it, shit or get off the pot, but don't make it about your politics. That's the stupid part for me.
But one
I
of the
hope that-
things too that I think about when I listen to this and I look at everything here, we have an entrepreneurial spirit in America, and if this was any other sort of downturn in the economy, we would definitely have people going out there getting ready to buy up some of these assets, to start a business, start a restaurant, to try and get other people to work for them because that's the American dream. But this is literally the government has come in and told you don't go to work or else.
Yeah. And to be honest, I see that, like for instance, Jack, what's his name, Twitter CEO, said he donated $1 billion to the coronavirus effort. And my thought is, you know what? There's a lot of effort around the world to try and solve this coronavirus, get a vaccine, get something going. If you've got $1 billion, why don't you look at companies that are going under or have gone under and start, put your money towards that. Let's try and save these companies, small or large, that are actually going to just bottom out from this pandemic.
I mean, because it's legal money laundering.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big philanthropy works, man.
Yeah.
So what they do is they wash it through kind of fucked up shit, like kind of corrupt. I don't know what I mean, but
yeah.
Jack Dorsey is like global elite as it comes. So
right.
To be honest, that's what the government's doing with tax money too. They're just washing it, and then they give out. That's why I don't back any of this assistance. I know it hurts, but what's going to happen with these bailouts is one day we have to let it fail, and each one it gets worse and worse. And this ain't the big one. So it's you just can't. I don't back any even assistance. I think I was saying that it's better if the government just closed its doors today and call this thing what it is.
Well, the only argument I make in that, and I've made this argument about the stimulus package, this is different than, the bailout that happened in, 2008, the big $70 billion bailout or however much it was. This is the government, whether at local and state level or at federal level, forcing people out of their income.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So
terrible.
So then the onus
of it
does fall to the government, in my opinion, to compensate those people, to give them a lifeline. I mean, that's the difference in this bailout versus others. I mean, you're telling people you can't go to work. Then what do? You can't go to work, and there's no way you're going to make it through this. You're not going to die from the coronavirus. But there's a good chance you'll die from poverty. Right? I mean, there's an onus on them to do something about it.
I agree. And I don't think the worst of this situation is the people who are going to get the relief money, because there are a great majority of Americans who live paycheck to paycheck. And without even this $1,200 that everybody's supposed to get, it's not really that much of a lifeline. It will be for some. But what worries me more is that that's a pittance, a percentage of the bill that's so astronomically small that it's almost not worth counting. And then you have billions of dollars getting slush fund. It's Christmas Day in the government right now. You've got $75 million going to the National Endowment for the Arts. You've got $25 million going to the, I read the bill.
I love the arts, but why?
Yeah. Because this is how
bullshit.
how they get their money around. They got a dance center that's getting $25 million. There's African banks that are getting the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. That's what it was.
The Kennedy Center then laid off all their musicians.
Right after that.
They're not.
Oh, how fascinating!
Because this is ridiculous. They could have.
This is the mafia. They're gangsters.
Absolutely.
African banks are getting like $1 billion.
This is the fucking how the mafia.
Why not?
Works. But
it's just why though. Like,
I mean, you gotta it's like the giving a prisoner a lollipop when you're eating a steak next to him. It's like, okay, I guess there's onus on them, but we're not talking about like right and wrong anymore.
And the thing is, it's not just that. It's like taking something from somebody and then giving them back a piece of it, and then saying you should be grateful that I gave it back.
Yeah.
They could have given us all back our tax money and we would be fine.
Fuck them.
This is just beyond
right. That is what I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised that instead of doing a stimulus, they just said everyone who's paid their taxes this year, you get that back, and if you have not filed your taxes, we will take no tax revenue this year.
That would have been the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that would have been closer to better.
Right thing.
They would have saved money doing that.
I hope after this, Americans, I know they won't, I know it's just wishful thinking.
Mhm.
I hope after this, though, Americans will look at what has happened in this situation and say what is best for our freedom, our safety, our health. Is it more important that I dunk on the political opposition, or is it more important that I'm able to feed my family, take drugs that may help me, even though I don't agree with the person that told me about them in the first place? People really need to decide for themselves what is the most important. And it scares me because I'm watching people around this country and half of them are begging for martial law, and the same people they don't trust to be in charge of every aspect of their life.
Yeah, bootlicker
Yeah.
state confirmed. Like confirmed bootlicker state. Like like the vast majority of people, and the further if they're the more like mainstream cable ish, the more like just straight up deep state bootlicker police state confirmed. Like,
yeah, it seems like there's a real competition going on in Washington to see who does the most and the best response to garner the most votes in 2020.
I gotta get out of here, yo.
Exactly.
This is crazy. I don't want to be here.
Where are you gonna go?
Not
Yeah.
DC. I mean, I'm looking at land. I want to get some property. That's
So
what I wanna do.
apparently you can move to Pitcairn Island for $500. Do you
For
guys know
real?
about So do you know about Pitcairn?
I've heard of it. I've seen it on a map,
Yeah.
but
So the mutiny with Anthony Hopkins and Mel Gibson in 1984. You guys remember that movie where they
know what you're
mutiny
talking
on the
about.
ship, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's based on a true story. And those dudes mutinied. They stole a boat. They picked up some chicks in Tahiti, and then they found an
Nice.
island in the middle of nowhere. And 200 years
Shit.
later, a sailing ship, like a whaling ship, wandered by, and their descendants were living on that island. But there's
badass.
yeah, so it's a kind of a cool story, and it's also kind of not a cool story. So if you go looking into Pitcairn, just advance with caution. But their population is dwindling, and so they are offering for people to come move to that island, which is 5,000 kilometers in the middle of the ocean.
Oh, I would do that.
And
Fuck
it's $500, and then there's a pizza place there.
Legit.
And if you look on the Google
it's probably a
reviews,
Domino's too.
it's called
No,
Andy's
gotta be
Pizza.
Pizza Hut.
It's called Andy's Pizza, and the only Google review says best pizza for 5,000 kilometers. And I believe them.
Yeah, I'm
good.
looking at it right now. Andy's
I like
Pizzeria, Pitcairn Islands, Adamstown. Yeah.
I'm
legit.
wondering how cheaply could we just pick up Epstein's old island and just revamp that?
Well, they're going to burn it to the ground and salt the earth, so we're probably not going to want to
Yeah.
move there. The farming will be terrible.
But what about
The
coconut
cost
trees?
of
There might be
life.
coconut trees there.
I mean, we watched the whole drone footage of that shit on my stream.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
I was
remember
there for that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
watched the whole drone footage on 2x speed of Epstein's Island.
When they killed that guy, when they killed him, I knew that all bets were off, and they just didn't care if we knew anymore. It was like, oh, the guard was asleep, and I'm like, that's
Yeah,
a
what do you think?
cartoon.
What are you talking about? It was just a series of unfortunate coincidences. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Isn't that the title of a children's movie?
Bunch
Right.
of fucking
Yeah.
lizards.
Right. I thought it was so funny. I watched all of that, and I'm like, you know what? That's all the things that they need on CSI, Law and Order, and everything to just go ahead and close that's all the proof they ever needed to convict somebody for killing him. What? Don't you guys watch TV?
I think we all know he was killed. It's just everybody's decided like who the actual murderer is, and it's like it's all of them.
Right.
None of us are.
It's all of them, but it's specifically her. Like, it is specifically her.
Yeah, unless you're on the other side, and then it's whoever
Yeah.
they're pegged.
Well, then it was Trump, the Trump body count and all
It's-
that.
That's the
Either
dumbest
Trump or
one.
Hillary.
I know, it was so
That
good.
is
I've
so
never heard
dumb.
anyone say it. Does
Yeah.
people really say that Trump killed Epstein?
Yes, it
Yeah.
trended hard that day on Twitter.
Well,
Hi.
so the funny thing is, it actually trended because
No.
Hillary body count was trending,
I
and
know.
then they
I was
replaced
there.
it
I
with-
remember that day
that's-
forever.
with
That's
Trump body
BS.
count. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like maybe this is like
Controlled narratives.
yeah.
Things can be true at once. I don't know.
Two things could be true.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
because
don't trust any of them.
Hologram. There was no Epstein.
are you telling me that Trump and Hillary are in
Epstein was
cahoots?
just a patsy. He's a patsy. That's it.
I am not saying that. But I'm also would not be surprised if it came out that way. I literally trust like none of those people, none of them.
Dude
I
was
think
like,
some of them do a better job. I think some of them help me out a little more day to day than others, but I don't trust any of them. So
dude was Mossad. He's like he had like mad connections to Mossad. It's crazy. Like there's all these ex Mossad agents that have like got given interviews that he was like a connection with the Israeli intelligence. It's like fucking crazy how deep that story goes. So I don't know. You know,
I-
Funny,
I
it
gotta
always goes
beach
back
somewhere.
to one single country, doesn't it?
No, the Bahamas,
The Bahamas.
Little St. James. I mean, but I mean, it goes. I don't know.
It was
There's-
Prince Andrew.
I don't know. We could talk conspiracies all day, and I would love that.
Oh.
I think it was
Dude,
Prince
Ed,
Andrew.
you got a bot in your chat, in your Twitch chat there.
Yeah,
got
guys,
another
you
bot
want to
that
be
took away-
famous?
Dude,
Yeah, I do want to
I-
become famous.
I'm like, guys,
wanna
want
be
to become
famous?
buy followers, primes, and viewers on followbot.com? I'm in. Like,
Yeah, right?
of course I'll give you my
You guys wanna
credit
be
card
YouTube
information.
friends?
You mean I'm not supposed to
Yeah.
click on those?
I'm not
Shit.
dude. Life's not fun anymore. Back in the day, you could just go on MySpace, click random links, have a blast.
Is that
Yeah.
clickbait or jailbait? Is it clickbait or jailbait?
I bet you could buy followers that way, but it's
You
just
probably really could.
you probably get flagged, or it's just
It's pretty
You know-
obvious when people use follow bots or like comment bots and stuff.
Mhm.
Because they're all the same comments. We've seen those, Steven. We joke about that
yeah.
all the time.
He's like
right?
hot fire, great stream. Want to be YouTube friends? I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to be best friends.
I broke Robert's heart on
Lifelong
that earlier. We
friends.
were talking about that off mic.
Yeah.
Like I want to be lifelong friends. I will defend you to the death.
That's right. We'll grow
I
old in
named
a
my
nursing home together.
I
you know?
named my second son after you. my first one was from the commenter a month ago. Yeah, it's funny,
Yeah.
man. Fucking internet.
Yeah, dude.
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Post Jazz says I can do the same thing for you. Just send me those CC digits. Thank you, Post Jazz. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I appreciate
We'll make
it.
sure to get those right out
You're
to
a good
you.
guy.
Yeah.
I think those are posted. You'll find those in the description. Just look down.
And also in the description, you'll find a little tiny URL link down there that is the link to the GoFundMe for the
yes,
stream that we're doing
donations.
right now. Yes, for donations.
$120 more, and I will write a song for you. Is that right? No,
shit.
220. I'm bad at maths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
That's
confirm.
$220 more. Can confirm. I will write a song about. There will be a discussion.
Can confirm he's bad at math.
Yes, can confirm. Sorry, because I'm not any better. So
2 + 2 is libertarian. Yes, got it.
right. 2 + 2 is taxation is theft.
True.
Excuse me
Yeah.
for a moment. Be right back.
And you do that.
Yeah,
Robert's
everyone
gotta
talk
pee.
shit about him.
Yeah.
Everyone talk shit
everyone
about
talk
him. Dude.
Well, why would we start now?
Yeah. Yeah. Wait till he gets back, then talk shit. I mean, come on.
Okay.
It's not like we haven't been doing it all stream.
I know.
Him and his tech issues.
So,
Oh, God.
Wyatt,
Boomer
have you been like going out for any other reason other than work? Are you like being a good citizen, like staying home, or are you violating the stay-at-home order?
Who?
I mean, honestly,
Wyatt.
it's just working
Oh.
back.
Yeah, it's just working back. Yeah.
I haven't been anywhere else. Nothing else is open to do anything. So,
When I was there, I went to the park a lot, and there was like a ton of people.
oh yeah, there's a lot of people in parks now.
Yeah.
Like I've always ridden my bike in the park about on the weekends, especially. But now it's almost hard to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
There's
was
just so
like-
many people.
I was
They
like,
sh-
it seems like people don't believe you. Like it seems like people don't like. What's going on here? Like,
They shut all our parks down.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
so gay.
they're doing that for Easter, where you can't go to the parks for Easter.
My God, people might go back and celebrate with each other.
But
It's
the
like,
thing
oh my
that
goodness,
pisses
I can't-
the thing that
Criminals,
pisses me
man.
off is it covers like nature preserves and everything, like the places my wife and I like to go and take long walks and hikes in. Can't go to those either. I'm like, God damn it.
This is
You know?
criminal shit, man. There's a bunch of crooks, man.
That's why I am appreciative of Georgia that they have seemed to resist a lot of these
Yeah.
like closures and stuff. And so our state parks are still open, and that's the only thing that we've been
Good.
able to do is go hike the trails. So
Yeah.
we're getting our shelter in place is ending on the 12th. So
Cool.
we're yeah. So I think we're the first ones out too. So
Nice.
watch us.
How long do you think
to
that's
see
going to
what
last,
happens.
though?
They're continuing the restaurant dine-in shutdown for 2 more weeks after. I think it's till the end of April, so like 2 weeks and a couple of days. So you can basically by that time, I think that the other places in the country have lifted their orders on May 1st. So we're keeping pace with the rest of the country. We're just not doing the police can stop you and ask you questions about where you're going or why you're out or
What is this?
yeah, or if there's
What is
kids.
this world?
This shit.
Yeah,
my
I actually
husband has
have.
transit papers, and it
Yep.
really
I have one
bothers
too.
me.
Oh my god.
I got one as well. Yeah, I was
Bugs
gonna
me.
say the same thing.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I've got papers
My
to
wife
show.
has my wife
Yeah.
has a document from her company that she can travel for essential need job.
It's like all your papers they lack the swastika snap. It's like it doesn't have a swastika. Can I provide you with one, sir?
I was just saying something to my wife about this a couple of nights ago, and I'm like, well, what's the point to have an 11 o'clock curfew in this county if you're going to leave the goddamn store open that I can go to after 11? I mean, the store's not, my Wawa up the street's not closed until 3 o'clock in the morning for 1 hour to
None
clean
of this
up.
makes any
I'm
sense.
like, why are, if they're open, why can't I go? Make them stay home too. What? I'm like, what the hell?
Do you guys in any of your states, are they doing where like you can walk into Walmart and buy food, but you can't buy anything non-essential?
No, I bought a trampoline like 3 days ago.
That's essential, yo. Dude, that is
Oh
essential.
yeah, that's essential as fuck. Yeah.
I think
And
that, I've only bought essential items, but
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
like-
right. She bought light up.
Essentially, I
rain
needed
boots.
a trampoline.
Oh.
I did.
It's
Oh,
absolutely
okay,
essential.
so it is a fitness trampoline, and my husband has varicose veins, and rebounding is supposed to be therapeutic for varicose
Mhm.
veins.
Yes.
Ergo, I would contend that it is an essential item.
Yeah.
I would say all of them are.
In my wife's store, they and she's been in a fit about this because they don't close down the general merchandise section of the store.
Mhm.
People are coming in, and the guys, she had one woman come up to her who was walking around the store and was asking her about something, and she said, well, I came in to buy alcohol, but I knew you guys wouldn't have it, so I'm just kind of roaming around and shopping. She was in the store for 2 fucking hours walking around the store, just meandering and shopping, didn't buy anything because she wanted something. She came in
She
with the
wants
intent
something
of
to
buying
do.
something she knew they didn't have.
That's what where I'm from, that's what people do for fun is they go to Walmart and they walk around. Like that's, I live in the country. That's all there is to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually just when this whole thing started, because I knew that I'm such a social person, I started calling pool contractors literally the day that it was shelter in place here, and scheduling them to come out to the house. And we're going to build a pool in our backyard. We hadn't planned on it, but now we are. In fact, I have plans from 4 companies. So one of them, if my husband ever gets back on a TV show again, is gonna get our business. I feel like that's perfectly essential.
Yeah. The thing is that a central planner can't decide what's essential and what's not because
Yeah,
there's
it's
a million
so
moving
stupid.
pieces. Yeah.
So, like what about what I was talking to someone about? Like, what about like looking, if you're like looking for a wife, that's essential. It's like that is like essential to someone's future.
Well,
like so you can call almost anything essential. Like you could call going to the bar and trying to look for dates essential. You're like, I'm trying to look for a family. That's freaking essential.
I
So
mean,
Right.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What? You go to a bar? I thought you were supposed to exchange 7 bags of oats and 2 goats.
dude, I'm a big dowry guy. I'm a big dowry. I'm all about the dowry.
Man, bring
The
back
dowry
feudalism.
life,
That's all I'm
dude.
saying.
But
Yeah.
see, I've used this, I've been planning that same argument about cigarettes. This is
Dowries?
like them being essential.
How many
16
cartons of
cartons and you can
cigarettes
have
did
my
your wife
daughter.
cook?
Yes.
If
If you give me a truckload of cigarettes, you can have my daughter.
You
Yeah.
have my thoughts. Like, 15 cartons. They must be Newports though.
Look, if they're gonna put us in lockdown, they're gonna have to
Best I
let
can do
people
is
have
Marlboro.
cigarettes.
Something.
Right? Well, I this is what I thought in my head. I'm like, yeah, cigarettes are essential to me because if I don't have them, I might kill somebody. And so I consider that an essential need.
Well, that's population control right there.
Shit, I know that feeling. Yeah.
I mean,
think
granted, it'll be attributed to the coronavirus, but still. I mean,
They very much want the food and the vices and all the things that we do to pacify ourselves
Yeah.
to keep flowing. So
They
the
want us
Netflix is gonna,
docile. Yes.
yeah, the Netflix will
Yep.
stay on. The internet will keep
The
running.
porn will
Mhm.
continue.
Yeah.
For
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Porn is
God
going
bless.
strong.
There
Porn
is
Fuck
actual
that. That's such a
coronavirus
bad
porn
idea.
too.
Yeah.
There is actually corona porn.
Fuck,
Like,
man.
yeah, real,
Because
yeah, real
you know,
34.
no exceptions, right?
Yeah,
If you can't amuse yourself, then you might actually muse and consider what's actually happening to you, and that's when people start to revolt. So
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
they want us
Just
like calm little
Netflix,
sheep. Yeah.
cigarettes, Ben and Jerry's, whatever it takes.
yeah.
So
Just watch the Tiger Show. Stay at home. It's
That's
all
kind
fine.
of what I was saying earlier about like learning science and stuff. It's like in this kind of stuff, it like I'm not saying science is bad. I'm saying nothing about this entire thing is like reasonable and makes sense. So if you got to kind of, for me, stop making sense of it. It's clown world manipulation control shit. That's like the lens to see it through, rather than trying to be the better science. Like the top scientist is not to be trusted. So it's like, you know,
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's about control. If you try to see it that way, rather than trying to be like, oh, like what's the incubation period of the how many days on the surface does it last? Like, you know, what if these drop? It's like, dude, just this is about control. Even if the virus is completely real,
There
the way they
is
say
no
it.
such thing as settled science, and if anybody
Yeah.
tells you that there's settled
Yeah.
science, they are not a scientist.
Well,
I'm very
when is
unsettled
it-
by this.
when it's all said, but when it's all said and done, I am going to say that the biggest problem in all of this was the initial media panic, which backed state and local governments and the federal governments into a corner to do something. They created a panic, and governments had no choice but to respond in drastic ways. You know,
I guess I don't think that forces their hand. I mean, someone can be like, I mean, especially Trump being who he is, he could have been like, listen, you're full of shit. We're not listening. This is fake as fuck. Like, he could have done that. That's not, there's no
sure
such thing
he
as
could have,
force.
but that doesn't get votes in 2020.
Wrong.
What was that? What was that, Robert?
I said he could have done that, but that doesn't get votes in 2020.
Yeah.
If you don't approach it the way the people who are panicking think you should.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm just saying there's such a thing as consequences, but that's not him being forced. There's still a choice in almost every
Like I
part of
said,
this.
backed into a corner. I mean, it's you force their hand, as it were, to do something. You know, whether it's going to be to just ignore it or to take drastic measures, their hand was forced to respond to a panic that was created by the media.
So real quick, let me just jump in. We have a Mr. John Johnson donated $10, so we're at $2.90 now.
Thank you.
So awesome.
John Johnson.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I heard the mask before I saw it.
You
Oh,
heard
no,
the
I guess-
mask.
Oh no, I thought you had a mask on. Wow, okay. No. Must have just been the way that you spoke.
I heard about the mask before I saw it, but I still didn't think it was that great of a movie.
Underrated movie, I was going to say. Underrated movie.
Underrated
Jim
movie. That
Carrey.
movie's
Yeah.
awesome.
My name
yeah.
is Cuban Pete. I'm the king of the rumba beat. Right?
Hey, don't get me wrong. I love Jim Carrey, but I wasn't fully thrilled with the mask.
You know what was really terrible was the
He
Son of the
shows up.
Mask.
Never saw.
Oh,
I've
Don't-
never seen a Jim Carrey
Don't
movie.
see it.
dude, that's like some Sharknado shit.
That was what was it? What was
It's
that
like
guy who
Sharknado
did
5.
the guy who did
The Ocho.
No.
I am hearing.
He used to do that punked ripoff.
Oh.
The X Factor, I think is what it was called.
Yes,
or
with Jamie
Jamie Kennedy, I think it was. his
Jamie
name.
Kennedy.
Yeah,
Oh, my
fucking
husband-
one of the worst comedians. Like probably worse than Pauly Shore.
That dude's
I
a
would say probably
comedian.
even
I
worse.
I actually know Jamie Kennedy, and he's
Really?
really nice. Yeah, my husband worked on.
Oh,
both.
he's really nice, right?
Was he? Is he
Because
actually?
I
Is
just
he?
talk shit about him, so of
Is he
course he
actually-
does.
Know him.
I feel bad.
Is he actually a comedian or a comedic actor? Because
He's a
there's
stand-up
difference there.
comedian too. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But he is a
Yeah.
nice man that has some amusing stories.
I'm sure he's very nice, but he's not funny.
He's a kind soul.
Yeah,
John, you've just never talked to him when he's high.
that's probably true. Yeah.
You ever
Literally,
seen
Talk to him
Jamie
at all,
Kennedy
so.
on weed?
On the
On
weed.
weed.
We have. I'm sure we have.
Yeah.
Let's hear it for
Yeah.
John Stewart. On the weed.
Yeah.
On weed, man.
You ever seen the back of a dollar bill, man?
On weed.
We're seeing it on the weed.
Oh man.
That was a good movie. That was a great movie, actually.
But yeah.
but never got the props it should have.
Oh, I know.
Half baked.
Not
Yeah,
until later.
never.
Not
Not where
not
I'm
at the
at.
time.
Not where I'm from.
Yeah, not at the time.
It's like one of the
No,
favorite
I was-
movies in
I
my
was-
town.
I was
Yeah.
watching. Have you seen Dave Chappelle getting the Mark
Kennedy
Twain
Center,
Award
yes.
at the Kennedy Center? And he
I
even
didn't.
they
Oh,
were even
yeah.
talking about that movie and how it flopped initially. You know,
Yeah.
it built a cult following,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
but that's because the stoners were too high to go see it when it first came out, and then when it started coming out on video and streaming, they were like, "Oh wow, man, this is a great movie."
Yeah, I mean, yo, weed went mainstream like in like 2002, like 2003,
What?
2003. We went like way more mainstream.
Mhm.
know, maybe-
I'm
maybe
gonna
a
have
little
to
after.
disagree there.
When do you think it happened?
1972.
Oh, really? I remember the 90s. It wasn't like referenced as much in movies. It wasn't like accepted by celebrities as much in the 90s.
Yeah.
I get what you mean about like
Yeah.
culturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
California, and we had like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, but
But that wasn't mainstream
Let me-
necessarily.
hold on.
Well,
See, but like parents in Georgia were scared of Snoop Dogg, so
Let me-
Yeah, now like normal
Yeah.
people are like growing weed.
Yeah.
Like normal.
Yeah.
and
like,
Snoop
hold on.
Dogg makes cookies with Martha Stewart, so times
Right.
have a
That's right.
change.
He's a,
Oh, yeah.
I will say this, Stephen. Unless you were in Atlanta in the 80s, yeah, shit was pretty mainstream around
Yeah.
there. Now, granted, it wasn't
I
like,
mean,
being
like-
advertised on TV, but
Right,
man,
media.
you couldn't swing a
That's the
dead cat
thing.
without hitting a weed dealer. I mean, they were all over, and they were growing that good Georgia skunk weed, baby, right
Like
out there in their
mainstream-
backyard.
something being mainstream and it being
not
like
that good.
referenced in the media are like one and the same. So I mean from like
Yeah.
a cultural media, like there's a reason that Snoop Dogg was Snoop Dogg in the 90s and 80s is because he was an outlier. Like not everyone was like flaunting weed during the music in that period. Now, granted, I was like 2 years old, but I do know the history of culture like a lot. And it something in like 2001, maybe even like 1999, where like top celebrities started blazing blunts in movies and shit. You know,
Well-
and especially by like 2009, 2010, like Pineapple Express, like these are like big time $1 trillion industries now, and they weren't in the 90s. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
Well-
Jessica, you're familiar with Piedmont Park in
I
Atlanta?
am. Yeah.
Okay, so
I've smoked a lot of
during
weed there.
during the late during the right
Very
While I
familiar.
Some pearls
Almost-
on to clutch really quick.
right every year when I was out there, Normal would have a big weed rally in Piedmont Park. They would lock the whole park down. They would have cops walking around on the perimeters and through the park. They didn't stop you from smoking. All they did was make sure you didn't take it outside the park.
Yeah.
It was like there were bitchy people that were like, yeah, you can't have, and everybody's like, fuck you. But it was like, it was thoroughly accepted that this was going to happen every year. There was going to be the big weed rally in Piedmont Park in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was like, hell yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I moved out there for like my college years, I became friends with and existed in the gay community. So like a lot of my Piedmont Park experiences are like Pride. And yeah, so at Pride, it was just open everywhere and everyone pretty much was smoking and the cops didn't really seem bothered. I've been to a lot of like open air concerts there. People smoke, doesn't seem to be bothered. So it's like, as long as nobody's fighting or causing a problem, there's no reason to like bother anybody.
And isn't it surprising to be that deep in the Bible Belt? And
Yeah.
that being so okay, like you would expect cops would just be busting people left and fucking right, and they weren't.
Yeah, one thing we like to do around here is we shoot the hooch, which means you put an inner
Mhm.
tube in a river and you
Mhm.
float at 2 miles an hour for a couple of hours. And they
Hell
know
yeah.
that you are getting smashed the entire
Oh,
time.
God,
like
yeah.
that's exactly what you do while you shoot the hooch.
Inner tube with an igloo cooler on a rope,
yeah.
dragging behind
Yeah.
it, keeping, or
That's
just your
right.
six pack. It'll keep your six pack
It'll-
cold in
yeah.
the water.
That's
right?
right.
Dragging that shit along, smoking a bong, smoking smoking
So
some big-
they know.
Oh,
like
you
it's
writing
not,
a song? Is it going to be long? Sorry. You rhymed. I was finishing your song. Sorry.
But so like
Don't
yeah,
mind me. I'm retarded.
it is the Bible Belt. That's true. But I think that like along with that, like Southern culture, we've always been the kind of like it's a lot of Scotch Irish people who we've always kind of been like we do our own thing. And there's kind of like the Puritan strain of American who I don't know. I mean, I'm English too, so I'm not bagging on the English, but the English came,
I will.
you know, with their Puritanism
Hey,
and their
now.
stuff like that. And
What,
then
you guys,
there's
what
the
the fuck you guys saying over here?
and then there's like like the Scotch Irish people who moved to the hills and started making their own corn liquor. And I come from the corn liquor variety of people. So we do what we want. And sometimes they throw us in a cage for it, but it doesn't really stop us.
But I gotta say, those Southern Baptists, man, can be a real bitch if you're not
Oh,
careful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
that's another thing that surprised me. You brought up the gay community, because in Atlanta, 2 bars at the time I was living there. One of them you may be familiar with, Backstreet, which is downtown, right? And that's still
totally.
open, I think,
That's a
right?
fitting name.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so
Backstreet's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Right? Backstreet and is it still 24 hours though?
I wouldn't know. It's been, I don't know, 8 or so years since I've been in and around that.
But they put a moratorium on, while I was there, they put a moratorium on how late bars could stay open. They started enforcing a 1 or 2 o'clock rule, right? But the Cove and Backstreet were 24 hours, and they were allowed to be grandfathered in. And these were 2 bars that were 99% considered gay bars.
Yeah.
And they were allowed to maintain a 24-hour open regimen that nobody else was allowed to. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? The Southern Baptists are letting 2 known gay bars stay open 24 hours when they're telling everybody else you got to shut down?
Well, the gay community in Atlanta is wealthy. There are a lot of wealthy gay people who live here, and sort of like the nicer, or some people would refer to them as, or they're referred to as maybe gentrified areas, are kind of being like taken over by the gay community. So Atlanta is sort of the hub of culture and what's going on in the Southeast. So people from all over the place kind of gravitate, especially if you're gay. Living in the Bible Belt in the country is not going to be exactly comfortable for you. You might gravitate toward living in a major city where they have more, liberal values. So you have a lot of like people who come from like even Louisiana to come live in Atlanta. And it's a sizable community. So there was a bar. It wasn't Backstreet, but it was a bar like Backstreet that had gotten raided by the Atlanta police. They were looking for drugs. And they came in there and they were horrible to the patrons. They were making them lay down on the dirty floor. They were calling them slurs. It was a really, really horrible thing. They found one guy who had drugs. I can't believe they found only one guy with drugs.
Yeah.
But apparently they only found one guy.
Everyone else just ate him real quick.
Yeah. So the community reaction.
They didn't check the butts. Yeah. It
was a soap bubble party, so people weren't wearing a lot of clothing. Yeah, so this is like
ecstasy suppositories and whatnot.
Yeah. Maybe the drugs had already been consumed, but I was baffled. I was like, one guy, really? But the community reaction to how the police had treated that situation in that raid was so bad that they ended up dissolving the elite red task force that they had sent to raid this bar. And so that was heartening to me, that the people of Atlanta were just like, no, you're not going to do this to our wealthy, upstanding, spend a lot of money to live here gay community. We like their money and we're going to keep them. So yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
It's always just been the weirdest thing about Atlanta through the years that I was there. Just the things that they, it's like, okay, those things that they did that just really surprised me, and then turn around and then they want to tear down the Margaret Mitchell house. And I'm like, that is like the bastion of Southern everything. And you're going to tear down her house? It's just going to be gone with the wind.
People would chain themselves to that structure before they would let that. I mean, that's a symbol of
somebody
Georgia.
actually wound up doing that. At the time to help prevent, and they wound up making it a historical landmark, which I'm assuming is still standing today.
It is, yeah. As far as I know, the Margaret. I mean, I think I passed it recently, actually. Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see this Margaret Mitchell house right next to skyscrapers.
Yeah. As far as I know, it's still there. I was there 2 or 3 months ago, and I'm pretty sure I passed the Margaret Mitchell house. It would be huge news if they tore that down, because that's a symbol of Georgia. I mean, there's no way to separate Georgia from Gone with the Wind. And if you want to remove the Margaret Mitchell house, meaning you want to remove the story of Gone with the Wind, you're talking about something that you're sort of covering up the history. And I'm not saying you're celebrating it. You should know about it, And Gone with the Wind is how Margaret Mitchell at least saw that, how she framed that, how that was part of her story as an American. And when you tear something like that down, you are taking it from future generations so that they know what came before them. We don't look at the barbarism of the Roman Empire and think, oh, we better not tell our children about the Colosseum. They fed people to lions. How terrible. It's like,
You've obviously never met a Karen.
Well,
But no,
Yeah.
I
But,
agree with you. There's a lot of identity associated with something like that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
it's ingrained in your identity that's a
Well,
part of your history, your culture.
I was
right.
gonna say, yeah. Speaking of that, there is actually because I went there when I went to New Orleans. There, they actually have a Confederate museum that
Cool.
has like all kinds of shit.
Cool.
Yeah. Just
Yeah, I
like
mean,
all kinds of weapons,
yeah.
which are really cool, of course.
Not like cool the Confederacy is cool, but like it is part of a major, huge event that formed the rest of the way that this country would develop. And so to pretend that it didn't exist is like rewriting history.
You know, it was funny. You know, you mentioned that. I've told you, John, I've been watching Penn and Teller bullshit, all of that. They did an episode on the Confederacy and that kind of thing. And they had a guy on there, and it was an African American guy.
I know exactly who that guy is too.
And he goes out and he marches with the Confederate flag in a Confederate uniform.
Yeah,
and what he wants, it was on reparations, and he wants reparations not for African Americans. He's demanding reparations for the South, for all the people that were displaced.
Dude,
and all the damage that was done to the South.
There weren't that many slave owners.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the South, yo.
Right, it was very.
And both sides were bad in the Civil War. Like Lincoln was not like that good of a dude.
He really
like,
wasn't. No.
Like, you know, so it's just history and war especially is just so messy that it's like I don't know, like there are parts about the Confederacy that were good. That whole thing was not just about slavery. Like it's
that's the most
very
ridiculous and frustrating
it's
argument.
Very complicated.
So no, it was absolutely about slavery.
We need like societies need like foundation myths to like get to reach a certain point, and that's one of them. Is the whole Civil War wizardry like?
I think that's true.
The whole thing is cloaked in wizardry, wordplay, and bullshit.
Yeah, because your average farmer in the South is going to go to war because he wants because he wants some other people to own other people. Come on now.
But you know how it is. History is written by those who can get the book deal.
Yeah. Well, it's not an accident that the monument to someone like Lincoln looks like a Roman temple to a god.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've always thought that looked like Roman or Greek.
It is. That's
intentional. That's intentional because it's the white marble and the pillars and all that stuff, and it gives people a sense of grandeur and establishment. And they're sort of borrowing from that 1,000-year history of Rome, and to say we are also good and established and have great gods to look up to. And he's definitely sat up there on a throne. There's no doubt.
Does it bother anybody that Washington's monument makes him look like a big dick? I mean, I'm like, how phallic could that be? I'm like, really?
Also intentional.
It's Egyptian. Stop it.
It's Egyptian.
Yeah, it's Egyptian.
It is. It's an obelisk. Yeah.
It's like Elizabeth Warren is a Native American.
She is. Don't you ever say anything bad about Elizabeth.
Right.
God.
It's time for a woman president, guys. Come on.
It's all just so cringe, man. The whole thing is just so cringy on the Democratic side.
It's like fine, we could have a woman president, but do we have to pick the absolutely worst one?
Yeah, we have to pick the literal devil.
It has to be the worst one, or else we can't go back and say, "Look, we did this at one time. Look how bad she was. So now we need another white dude." That's the only way we can.
Well, the thing is,
I'm convinced that's what the Democrats are trying to do. So,
okay, the point is that it's not that like I don't know. The type of woman that's gonna want to be the leader of a fucking army is like the best women are all not doing that.
Right.
Like the best women are all not doing that. I don't know what the best women are all doing, but they're not trying to command men to a battle. The best women are doing like good shit for women.
Right.
So it's like the type of woman that's going to rise to the top of like that field is all going to be just horrible. Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, authoritarian lizard people.
I'm going to put this out there, and I'm going to say it: the best woman for president will not be a politician.
Exactly. She's not going to be doing that shit probably.
Can I just say, as a woman, which makes me an expert on all things women,
course.
The best.
That's why I'm
man-
speaking too.
Hold on. The vagina is speaking.
Whoa.
Let me confer with it really quick. Yeah, no, what I'm about to say is okay. The best man, the best man that could be president isn't running either, though.
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's just like a
No.
woman thing versus.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I
not-
decided
it's
not
just
to
that,
run
no.
this
Like
time.
there is
so.
a level, and yes, I would agree. For a woman, it has to be a lot more, but there's just a level of arrogance and narcissism and just utter ridiculousness and grandeur that you have to have to want to be president.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
I
like
agree.
not. Yeah, that's why I like Trump. Is because Trump is just the biggest dick.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the big. That's why I like him. It's politics is so dirty, nasty, and like nice. I don't care about the nasty thing. I like Trump on Twitter, but it's let's just call this thing what this is. It's the fucking mafia. So it's
Hey,
like, that's why like
yeah.
Trump is good. I like.
And he's a great mob boss when you think about it.
He
Have
is.
you-
Yeah.
I don't know. Andrew Yang dropped out of the race quite a while ago, but it is so funny looking at his Twitter feed now, like the things that he's saying, because he is like totally 180 from who
Dude,
he was
Yang
presenting.
is a
He's like,
bootlicker,
fuck
dude.
this and screw that, and you
Dude.
shit pile of this. I'm like, whoa, potty mouth. What's
Andrew
going
Yang,
on?
dude. Andrew Yang cucked hard, dude. He
Yeah.
went like
Mhm.
full corporate cuck, dude.
And his Twitter was so sad for a while
I
because people
know,
were like,
man.
oh, I wish
Poor
you didn't
Andrew Yang. We need to
endorse
pray
Biden.
for
He's like,
Andrew
yeah,
Yang.
me too. Like, it's
Pray-
like,
pray-
oh, dude, just put it out
Hashtag
there.
pray,
I mean,
pray for Yang, dude.
Yeah,
Dude,
man, that poor
someone visited his family or something.
make sure he's okay.
But there, I thought it was funny when somebody pointed out the irony of the Democratic voter / party is that you had this wide field of very diverse candidates for the Democratic Party. And as it keeps going and moving along, it's still this most diverse party in our country wheedles it down to the two oldest white men in the bunch. Screw the African Americans, the Asians, the women, all of that. Let's get right back to old
Somebody
white
clip
men
that
running
out.
the
That'll be
country.
funny.
The news
Clip
was
that
literally
saying that.
reporting that there were only 2 candidates left when Tulsi Gabbard was still in the race. So,
Well, yeah,
Tulsi.
yeah. She
you
didn't.
know
Oh
what?
my god.
I think I'm the only person on the. Well, I can't. It's like I
So-
like what. Tulsi's a super villain. So just.
Mm.
I do have a question now that we
Interesting.
actually have some female influence in this stream.
We've always had
They're
John.
talking to
Yeah, we
you.
have always. No, we haven't brought Jane back yet, so.
Yeah, Jane's still in a drawer over here waiting
Real
to
quick,
be
Ed,
brought
before
out.
he's speaking of Jane, folks, if you're out there and you haven't donated, we're raising money for first responders and those affected by this virus that are out there on the front lines taking it for you, making sure that everybody's getting through this okay. So hit that GoFundMe link. It's in the chat. It's down in the description. Donate anything that you can to help us out so that we can see if we can't make this a little bit better for those people like Wyatt who are out there putting themselves in harm's way to make sure that we have the things we need. Oh, and at $1,500, Jane comes on. So
That's right.
anyway, Ed,
Yeah.
And at $1,000, I'll start getting drunk. So
John,
That-
that's all you're doing is praying for $1,000, isn't it?
Kind of.
It's like,
Uh,
God, I need a drink. Fuck it, I'm going in my savings account.
either way, that's starting at like 8
That's like-
tonight. So in about 5 hours from now. Either way. So
So my question here was, Biden came out and said that he is absolutely going to nominate a woman for his vice president. Now, given his age and the fact that he is Alzheimer's positive at this point, there's no way he's not.
Can confirm.
There
Yeah.
is
You can
a
see
very
it in
good
his
chance.
face.
There's a very good chance that the first female president is going to be someone who is not elected, but
Be
however
Hillary
appointed.
Clinton.
I don't.
What do you think that does? What do you think the fourth wave, the third waivers and the fourth waivers think of that? If it's not someone that's elected, but rather somebody that just got in by a technicality.
I think it's just typical. It's like just another instance of a woman being like, I had other shit to do, but now I have to take care of your mess. So
Ugh.
Wow.
Sounds horrible.
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Sounds
Where's
like a
the
bad
mute?
time.
God damn it.
Sounds
Where's
like
the
it
mute?
sounds like
Thing.
a relationship I
No,
could
no.
have
That
been in.
sounds like the 3 wives
But it
I've
was
had
fine.
in the past.
Yeah, I was just saying, same thing, man. Same thing. Been there.
I don't think third waivers and fourth waivers give one red cent whether they got it legitimately or not. I think much like, most of that Marxist communist ideology, they're just like by any means necessary. And so if they need to it's ironic that it's a weekend at Bernie's situation without the Bernie. We've got weekend at Biden's. They're going to marionette this corpse of a man out into the.
Isn't that what they've been doing already?
Well, I mean, I wanted it to be Warren because she's at least got some fight in her and she's like a cognitively available human being. Joe Biden is just a sad old man and Trump is going to annihilate him. And I think it's going to be sad to watch. I'm still going to watch it, of course, but it's going to be sad.
Schadenfreude, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to watch it.
Let me. Well, in that vein, I have to ask. Aside from the fact that it's Joe Biden, does the obvious, and it's blatantly obvious that it's a pandering move to just say I'm going to pick a woman. It's
Sure.
not about I'm going to pick somebody that's qualified or anything. I'm picking a woman.
Yeah,
That's going to hurt him more than anything else, even with Democratic voters. Am I correct?
They're trying to cultivate. I almost said They're trying to cultivate a voter base that is so small in the population, which is that progressive. I mean, they're loud, but they're not that big of a population. And he is murdering his chances with any kind of moderate voter, let alone anybody who's not, on that progressive train. So there's just, I mean, it's overwhelmingly for Trump at this point. I think it was Michael Malice that had said that Trump won the presidency 7 months early. Like might have been him. I'm not positive who said it, but someone on Twitter had said Trump had already won. And I was like, yeah.
I can't understand how people don't see the just utter pandering. If you think that a woman vice president is so important, hell, you had 3-4 women that were running for president. Why didn't you just step down and give one of them a chance? Like, does anybody really believe that he cares if a woman is president? I mean,
it's such a broke take. I mean, it's just such a broke take. Like it must be a woman. Like, what if they all suck? I'm not saying they do, but what if? Would you still do it? How many of the women have to suck for you to walk this back?
Well, I think at that point you pick the one that swallows.
Oh God! So Kamala Harris.
That's who I think it'll be. By the way,
that's what they're saying in the chat. Yeah,
and that's double pandering. That's double
terrible.
pandering.
That is double pandering.
Oh,
well,
dude,
it works on all angles.
Secessionist movement.
Right.
Then he gets to say, "Oh, I have a person of color and a woman. Look how great I'm doing." Because this is all about checking boxes.
And the reality of the situation is, he said, I don't think that this woman of color is good enough to be president. She's only good enough to be second best. Like, that's what you're really saying, Joe. So
yeah, that's what they were saying during the debates. It's like they're like, step aside then, white man. Like the white man's had its turn. If you're saying that this is such a big issue, just step aside, white man. You'll be fine.
Right. And I can't see
reparations.
Kamala Harris because that was the one person out of the debates that he had the most points of contention with. I mean, she literally seemed like she fucking hated his ass.
I don't blame her.
And yet they're going to get in bed together.
Then that video though that she made when she endorsed him, I was like, cook, like all of them, like they're all just like, it's so cringy. I love it. Like,
but
it's a good time to not be a Democrat.
In the blue no matter who sector, it's a short memory. Yeah, they don't remember that 2 months ago, 3 months ago, these people were tearing each other's throats out. All they remember is now we got to be a united party because blue no matter who, no matter how senile, we're going to vote for it.
Right. All that matters is getting rid of Donald Trump. That's all that matters.
So bad.
Yeah.
And that works.
And don't get me wrong. I want him out. I don't want to do another 4 years of this craziness because I mean,
it's gonna be so fun, man.
I don't love it because I'm old
fun.
and I stress over these policy bullshit and all this shit that goes on. I want to go back to. I want to find. I don't know. I want some fucking decency in Washington where we can expose corruption, put people out to pasture that are corrupt, and get back to trying to have some
none
sort
of that's happened in your lifetime.
When has that ever been the case, though?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This has never happened in the last 100 years.
I think Trump has exposed a lot of things, like the media.
Exactly. That's why he's good. That's why.
To be honest with you, I think it was on the verge of happening at one point in our history till a shot rang out.
No.
and
No.
put that man down in his convertible.
Maybe.
I think John Kennedy could have quite possibly fucked around in in Washington enough to maybe make some turns. Now, I don't know. He may have fed into the whole Kennedy idiocy before it was all over with, but he at least seemed to me like he had some moral standing that he was going to be president from.
So
Now, I'm probably wrong.
Go ahead.
Didn't he make his brother attorney general? Or, I mean, like, am I wrong on that? Am I getting that confused? I
No,
mean,
that's right.
It seems like there's a lot of nepotism with the Kennedys, and I'm not sure that they're the like bastion of like honor and virtue.
Yeah, if that's the best we got, we're fucked.
But I will say this: find me a family in Washington that isn't nepotistic. I mean, how much nepotism?
That's the point we're making.
That's
right.
What
I mean,
saying.
that's what I'm saying.
I
mean,
it's
so
really bad.
So we had a veneer of normalcy before, at least when like Barack Obama was president. All of these horrible things that we're upset about now were happening then.
Yeah.
It's just that we had this veneer of decency with a smiling, clean-cut, well-spoken man.
That was good.
Yeah.
Speaking and a black person.
And he's great. And now we have Trump, who's I think I heard a CNN person say that it's like rolling a stick of dynamite into Washington. And he is like a bull in a china shop, and he doesn't respect the office and the establishment. And that's good because it doesn't deserve any respect.
Yes.
And so that's uncomfortable for us because we've placed trust in it, but it needed to fall. And it's uncomfortable to watch, but yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, fuck
other than the fact that, if whether or not they're qualified, I don't have an issue with nepotism, because if you take it down to the personal scale, if you start a business,
you're going to get
and your brother needs a job.
Exactly. Yep.
What are you going to do? If your kid needs a job, what are
you
got
Joe Biden. Go ahead.
So you're perfectly okay with like Jared Kushner and
No. I'm not saying again. It winds up being about qualification. So if your brother sucks at the fucking job, boot the fucker. But I don't know that Jared Kushner. Find him a job that he's qualified for. I mean, if you're going to do it, put him in something they're qualified for. But it's going to happen no matter where you're at, whether you're in Washington or outside of it.
Yeah, but with that in mind, you have to keep in mind that Burger Kings aren't running in DC right now.
I don't get it.
Kushner qualified.
Yeah.
Follow along.
And I would say this. I don't know who. I don't know if I could pick one person that's qualified to run a whole country of people. I think that we just say, "Oh, this is the best we can do." I don't think there's someone that's actually qualified to run.
The presidency is not even about running the country, though. He's a law enforcement officer. That's all he is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of like the Trump show. I mean,
I fucking love it. It's one of my favorite things.
Federal Apprentice.
I agree with
good.
Go ahead. I agree with Scott Horton that Donald Trump belongs in a supermax prison for being a fucking war criminal, and so does Barack Obama and Bush, and all the way down the line. But at the same time, watching what happened with like the impeachment investigation and collusion, and Joe Biden's crackhead kid working for the Ukraine and stuff,
and Kavanaugh.
And he's peeled the Kavanaugh, and they for any woman who'd experienced a sexual assault in her life, having to watch this public trial where this weeping woman is crying out this story, like horrible thing to put millions of people through in this country, and they just kept coming and kept going. And even now, I'm told they're in the midst of constructing an investigation into Trump. And so what it's done is peeled back the veneer, and now we can see the screaming hell. Like, you guys ever seen Event Horizon?
Yeah.
Like you peer through the black hole, and it's actually like hell, and they're screaming bodies
or like
everywhere.
in like Looney Tunes where they open the door and so there's chaos. Like fucking shut it real
and
fast.
then you shut the door. So what we've had here is Trump is ugly, no doubt, in every sense of the word. He sucks. But what he's done is he's torn the veneer off, and now we can't look away because we've all seen it. And what the Democratic establishment has been trying to do desperately is run in saying, we've got another veneer, we can put the veneer. And many people are signing up for that and saying, I just want to go back to feeling like everything was okay. But we can't do that because that would be going back to sleep. And we have to push really hard against that instinct. We want to feel like everything's okay. That's a natural, absolutely natural instinct, but we can't because it's not.
Yeah, take them red pills.
I absolutely agree with you. I think us watching every single thing that Trump did from before he was elected to today, and then considering just the fact that if you ask 100 people how many of them know the name Tara Reid and linked with Joe Biden, how many people even know about that? We don't even bring that up. But Trump said something to Billy Bush in like 1998, and it's all over the news before he was even president. And
Well, and
I
there's just a massive difference between the two of those too. I mean, Trump came out on a tape and said women let him do it consensually, and Biden supposedly, and there's no corroboration to this, pushed some woman up against the wall and finger banged her while nobody was looking.
Bro, have
But
you
it's
seen
not
him with
supposed-
kids? With
Yeah.
kids.
but I
Yeah.
thought Me Too and
Kids.
Time's Up. I know my
Mhm.
But that's the
3-year-old
point.
walked in,
Me too, and time's up, and all hashtag me too, Alyssa Milano, except for when it's Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And so it's not supposed to be about evidence. It's supposed to be about believe all women. So you believe all women
I mean,
until they
Yeah.
hurt the Democratic Party.
Like
Hmm.
the difference the difference is like literally Trump's thing he said was either way was a private conversation.
I think we're getting photobombed here.
hold
and,
on, I'm gonna try and get her out of here.
And
Gotta go back on it.
we're getting photobomb. Nice. Hey. But yeah, I mean the stuff with Biden, man. I mean, it's just like that was in public swearing-ins of other like legal officers, like with their wives and children. In that the shit with kids is just so far removed. I was saying it on my show. I would bet $10,000. Think about the shit you haven't seen from Trump. I would take any of that stuff and that you could imagine and put it up against those video montages of Biden sniffing children and groping them and
Yeah.
like with
Disgusting.
7-year-olds,
Vile.
dude.
Because that's
It's-
just what he's willing to do on camera.
Dude.
That shows you
Yeah.
how normalized that kind of behavior has become
Yeah.
in those circles.
Bunch of diddlers, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
A bunch
gross.
of kitty diddlers.
Yeah.
And then
It's
how
so dark.
impossibly clean did Trump have to be to get through all of these investigations? And they had the deep state digging into him. I mean, he must have been cleaner than any of us would have imagined, because everybody goes, yeah, well, he must be a slime ball.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got ties
Yeah.
to the mafia and all this stuff. I mean,
Well-
just look at him. But I mean, he must have been way cleaner than anybody would have
It
imagined.
leads me to
Well-
believe that there isn't that much more on Trump.
Well,
Can't be.
well, so
they
they
would have
So
dug it up.
or it's so entangled with people on the left that don't want
Mhm.
themselves exposed that they're not going to bring it up.
Uh-huh.
that's
I mean-
the same point I was going to make.
But see-
Yeah.
Sorry.
But see,
No, no,
I
it's
always,
fine.
I
Good
always,
point.
I will
Yeah.
always go back. I will always go back to this argument when it comes to Trump and it comes to corruption. Is if he was such a great businessman, how are there so many people under him that committed crimes that are facing penalties for crimes they committed in his organizations, and he was unaware? He knew nothing. He was I don't know that it's necessarily that he was clean, as he was able to keep any ties from attaching to himself.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I don't-
Also, but some of the people who are in jail had this entanglement, with Trump, where maybe they misremembered something or they didn't say something quite right to the FBI, and they can be said to be lying to the FBI because they didn't remember something from 10 or 20 years ago. I don't remember stuff that happened last week. So, I could definitely, if the FBI were grilling me, I would have a really hard time remembering things correctly. And so the government's allowed to lie to you and trap you, and so how much of that is
Yeah, what is their what if that is a crime? That's what I'm really talking about. Like if you're talking about from like a common law, natural law perspective, a lot of the shit is not really a crime. I mean, slavery
Yeah.
was legal,
Mhm.
So if you think about
Yeah.
things from like natural law, there's not like
Right. But if
conspiracy
it's
is not really a crime if
But
it's like
but we
shady
don't-
business dealings.
But we don't get to necessarily lean on that, because we have to look to the letter of the law.
Oh, we're
because
headed
that's-
there though. No,
that's where we
no.
wind up being.
No. What do you mean the letter of the law? The entire
Well, I mean, we're a
Constitution just
country
got
with
violated.
laws.
No,
Well,
we're
sure.
not. No, we're
Well,
not. We just
look.
got proven that the entire Constitution is bullshit with this virus stuff.
Yeah.
So no, no.
Right. Well, what I'm
we're headed for a street level law as we speak, day by day, right now. So it's like the elites don't pay attention to any law. So
No, they don't. People, that's actually a really important point, and I'm sorry to interject, but
Oh, it's
a
fine.
lot of people compare America right now to the Weimar Republic or right before Nazi
Yes.
Germany. A lot.
Mhm.
But I actually see way more similarities to pre-revolution France. I think that there is a huge aristocracy with a massive conspicuous wealth, and people are absolutely, we're not starving in the same way that the French were in that time, but we're one, toilet paper run away. I think, they keep the vices flowing. If people can get their weed and their beer and their food, they're going to stave this off for a while. But if any of that gets disrupted, which within a shutdown economy, that's on the way, whether we like it or not.
I've been saying 1890s Russia. That's what it reminds me of. And like
I can see
25
that.
years later, like it's the same kind of thing though. Yeah, this
There's
has happened so
similar
many times.
attitudes.
This has
Also,
happened
when you
so
see
many times. Yeah.
the hate for the landlords, that language is coming right back up.
Yes.
Like all these landlords, and I'm like,
Kulaks.
oh,
Yeah, I wanted to bring
I
that
know
up,
this.
too.
Kulaks, yeah.
Yeah.
But the question
Absolutely.
you have to ask yourself, I think, or I ask myself, have we like you said, Stephen, this has proven that the Constitution is worthless. Well, I would counter that for the last 100+ years, we've already been digging a trench under the Constitution for the
Correct.
bottom to fall out of it.
Correct.
And in doing so, we have been creating more and more sheeple generations,
Correct.
which then begs the question, how many people are there really to form a revolution when the mass of people are just following what's being told to them? They're just the sheeple.
7 people. That's how many.
Right. And,
No comment.
The American Revolution did not happen because of a majority of the population. It was a very small number of people who managed to pull that off. So it doesn't take and revolutions can go the way the American Revolution went, or they could go the way the French Revolution went. So it can go the wrong way too. And
I mean, even the American Revolution was kind of messy afterwards.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and we are not primed for the good kind of revolution.
No.
Right. And ultimately, when it's all
Reign
said
of
and
Terror,
done,
Take Two, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah.
I mean, just because we have a revolution and we take the existing government out of play, prove to me that the next whatever you put in position is not going to be equally or more corrupt than what's there, because power corrupts.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't want an anarchist world, but that's the only way to not have corruption.
Sounds really good. Actually,
sounds better. Yeah,
sounds like Mad Max, which I'm okay with as long as I get to run the Thunderdome.
No, it's people. Everyone having a farm is anarchy. Like everyone having a farm and trading is anarchy, not Mad Max.
You don't think Mad Max was kind of anarchist, just a little?
That's violent.
So I think
it
it can go that way.
Yeah, that's the way anarchy
it can
absolutely
go that
can
way,
go.
but the way that most
Not
anarchists are is like they're envisioning like barter system shit and like little towns. Yeah,
I'm down with that part. Yeah.
I want to interject here for a second because it looks like we're going to lose Wyatt here in a little bit.
And
here,
me, yeah, and I got to bounce.
Got to get to work.
Good talking to you guys. This is a really cool conversation.
Yeah, I have fun too.
Wyatt, plug your stuff.
Plug us, baby.
Plug. All right, so obviously I have a YouTube channel. It's called Roundtable Decision, and I've been doing a lot of different type of stuff with my channel. In the past, it's been a lot of like news coverage and political coverage, but I'm doing a couple of separate things. I have a couple of philosophy and psychology type of videos coming out soon, as well as my live stream of the book I've been creating, which I plan to do Monday. This Monday, I plan to do a live stream about it. Not sure which time. So I'm kind of having a little different type of content and be a little more consistent on my YouTube. But I also have a Discord, which you can find in my description of my YouTube videos, or on my Twitter, which is Roundtable IB. And that's pretty much the social medias that I'm a part of the most would be Discord and Twitter. So if you want to reach out to me, that's probably be your best bets as far as that goes.
And I got to give mad props to you, Wyatt. I think that you are an excellent example of a college student who is actually having their horizons broadened without buying into all of the brainwash bullshit that goes on in colleges these days. I think you've managed to really keep that at bay, yet allow yourself to expand and look at different aspects of life. I got to give you props for that. I think that's very important for kids to be doing when they're going to college and getting further education these days.
Yeah, I try to. It's definitely somewhat harder than uh, in some classes, but in general, I would say that I've had pretty good professors with it. So that kind of helps. But I've definitely had one professor who's very liberal, but just so happens to be in government class. So
Go
Right.
go
figure.
figures.
Yeah.
So, hey, White, just real quick before you go, let me know on Monday. Just send me a message on Discord when you're about to do your stream, so I'll come watch
Okay.
it. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure to tag you before I do. I plan to use your idea as well with the 20 minutes before, so that will help as well in getting people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, it will. Yeah, cool.
John's gonna get tagged by Wyatt.
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess I'm out of here too. I got to teach some music, y'all.
Plug your stuff.
So- Oh, well, I am Steven Ignoramus. I stream almost every day, do music and I do interviews, and I do the Daily Ignoramus, which is news and stuff like that. I do memes on Instagram and things like that, but I don't make any of them. I'm more of a communist in that way. I'm a
They're our
redistributionist.
memes, comrade.
They are. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I stream almost every day, but yeah, just Steven Ignoramus with a PH on all the channels and things like that. And I don't know. I look forward to being back around 6:30 or 6:45.
And we'll see you back sometime later, perhaps, Wyatt, after you're done serving the public.
Yeah, it'll be Eastern time's an hour ahead, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It'll be like 8:30, 9 o'clock
Sure,
for
sounds good.
Eastern.
Cool.
For the
I plan to
record,
come
you're
back.
an hour behind.
Yes.
That's the
Correct.
perspective. That's a correct perspective.
Good talk. Yeah.
You're an hour behind.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're the real time zone. Yeah.
That's right. See, the one correct
No.
time
No,
zone,
no.
Eastern
Central
time zone.
time's where it's at. I'll defend it.
We,
Good talking to you guys. What's
We
up?
get the
Yeah,
sun
see you, man.
first. We get the sun first.
It's true.
You'll get more sunburnt now.
No, you build up the golden tan, brother. The golden tan.
Yeah, see, I don't tan. I just burn.
Yeah, I
That's
just go
it.
red.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what
Alrighty,
do we
well,
got?
peace.
Yep, see you, Wyatt.
I added you,
Peace.
Wyatt. Add me.
Okay, I'll add you back.
Cool.
So we were talking about rent strike right before all of this went through, and I would like to get some takes on that because there's been a lot of really spicy stuff going on. Now, at current law, evictions are pushed back until the end of or 60 days, I believe, is the federal guideline for it. Some states are going to 90 days, which back rent is due afterwards. But now people in certain states are saying that they don't want to pay any rent at all at any time because it's their human right to be there. So what's everybody's take on that?
Something that requires the service of another is not a right.
Amen.
So yeah, so I mean, someone had to build the house. Someone had to either purchase or at least, depending on your perspective, occupy the land.
Mhm.
And so anything that requires them to perform a labor or a service is not a right.
Yeah, this is nothing that I
That
don't
would be
think
slavery
any
at that
kind.
point.
I mean, that seems like squatters' rights to me. One of those arguments, and it doesn't facilitate any real nothing. Fuck them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with I'm fine with not throwing people out on the street when you're telling everybody to lock down. I'm fine with that. But if you were at a point to be evicted, you weren't paying your rent anyway. So it's not like it's going to matter. They're not going to pay you anyway. You can charge them all you want, just like their credit report up. But I fuck them. If you're not going to pay your rent, you should expect somebody to come and put your ass out the fucking door. This is not one of those. This shouldn't turn into a super gimme to where you just get to live the rest of your life in your unrented apartment. Fuck that.
So there are people who actually do that. My dad's in real estate. He works for a real estate agency, and he's got a few houses of his own that he rents out. And he was talking about these people called professional renters. Basically people who know the eviction system, and it can take upwards of 2 years to get them evicted because they know how to work the system so well. They know obviously when not to answer the door, so they don't get served papers. They know which court appearances they absolutely must go to and which ones they don't have to go to. These sorts of things. So I mean, it's not like it's all one-sided where the landlord just has all the power and they can just kick you out at a moment's notice. You know, it's
now
it's
see,
a long
Narrative
process, and if you know what
push
you're
about.
doing, you can stay rent free for upwards of 2 years.
Now, see, if it were me and I were landlord in that situation, I would be making changes to the house. I would go in and replace the water heater with
Mhm.
one from 1920 that didn't even fucking heat the water.
Just make
And
it
I would
really
go,
uncomfortable for them. Yeah.
Front door repair that's going to take a couple weeks, so you just take
right.
the door off.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
absolutely start doing things like that. That's how you fight against something like that. You want to live in this, then you're going to live in shit. Yeah, you're going to live with it.
Yeah.
Important what you said to point out that we're saying like a landlord can't just kick someone out, because that's the narrative that's being framed, is that
Yeah.
these evil landlords are just kicking people, throwing them out on the street without a moment's notice.
Mhm.
And really, this whole thing to me just reeks of people that are exploiting a crisis,
Mhm.
to try and have like a long-term bonanza. And it's just, again, vile. It's disgusting. And I understand things are hard. I've had times in my life where they're hard. I've had landlords that were awful and didn't, you know, live up to the contract that we had together. That doesn't mean that all of them are evil, and that doesn't mean that they don't provide a very useful and meaningful service for a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's also an affordable housing crisis in this country right now. There aren't that many affordable apartments for the number of people who need them. So if you were lucky enough to be in an apartment situation where you can afford the rent, why would you mess that? Why would you throw wrenches into the existence of that apartment complex?
I
And then
agree.
yeah, and then further than that, there are people that work for property management. They're the people who lay the carpets, who paint the place, who do the plumbing,
Hmm.
do all the repairs. These are vast numbers of jobs that we're talking about. So like if you're concerned about the working man, you're screwing over all these people because you don't want to meet your agreement that you gave your word, you signed your name that you were going to pay this amount of money. Now it is BS that the government shut the economy down. That is absolute BS, and I am right there 100% sympathetic with that. But
Oh, yeah.
to take that as an excuse not to meet your agreements when you can do that is I don't have any family friendly words for that.
Well, it's one of those things where, even lenders, like when you talk about homes and stuff, they're going to be, they've got these agendas though. For instance, Brett was talking about putting off mortgage payments, right? Or, how you can forestall it. And it's like, okay, well, if people are in a position from not working that they can't afford to pay their mortgage and they need a hold on that, what makes you think that suddenly at the end of this they're going to have a balloon of $18,000 that they can hand you
Right.
to pay for this? It begins to be a convoluted issue where it's like, okay, so I'm going to be foreclosed on after this is done because I can't afford to pay for what I've put off until it's done.
Mhm.
It's a dangerous situation to be in.
I agree with you. I get that. I absolutely understand that. But I feel like there's a huge difference between we're in a pandemic and almost nobody can work, because the government has shut us all down, and landlords are evil through perpetuity. We shouldn't have to pay rent.
Oh yeah, no, that's
And the
huge
thing is,
Yeah.
difference.
landlords are not going to just go, okay, well, I guess no one's going to pay their rent. Landlords are going to find loopholes and ways to get that money. And it's going to end up being, I would say, on the front end, where they're going to stop accepting credit scores that they may have previously accepted, where they're going to start charging astronomical amounts of rent to new tenants, because they know that they might not get paid after a certain number of months because of the way things are going, where people that could previously afford to rent in this property, in this area, this particular unit, are now priced out because the landlord has to protect their investment by charging way more for rent than they normally even would have wanted to. They're forcing the hand of these landlords in the long run by doing things like this, and really they're just shooting themselves in the foot. I don't It always astonishes me how people just look at their situation right now and what they want, and just refuse to look at the long-term and wide-scope consequences.
Well, I would ask this: if when we look at all this stimulus money that is being put out there, should they not? If they're going to say you can't evict, you can't foreclose, and people are in a position where they can't work and can't pay those things, shouldn't they make an avenue for a landlord to say, okay, I've got 6 tenants out of my 10 houses that can't pay. So I have a government avenue where I can request for the months that we're in this lockdown, I get this much rent for each one of those places that I was charging the renter who cannot pay. They qualify for not being able to pay. So part of that stimulus money go to landlords who would otherwise not get rent from these people.
I would say that's one way to do it. I think that there's a lot of ways to exploit that.
Oh, absolutely.
But probably, I mean, what I would say if it was me that was in charge of this is, okay, I'm a landlord. If I say I will defer payments until after this is over, and instead of like a forbearance where you owe it all at once, we put it towards, partial payment added on with your rent, something like that. And if that's not recovered when the tenant leaves the property at some point, because most people don't stay somewhere forever, then I can go to the government and say, because of this pandemic, I was forced to do this, and now I want to be recovered at a later date, which guess they don't get the money up front, but at least they're guaranteed that if they went through the avenues to try and get the money and they couldn't, then we could do it. I feel like it would just give us a little less maybe fraud being able to get through. But again, they're not going to do any of that. So
well, I don't understand why a landlord cannot, and I'm not necessarily talking about apartment complexes, but I don't understand why. Well, any of them wouldn't qualify as a small business.
Has no right to
I mean, why wouldn't they qualify as a small business to where they can get part of the stimulus money as well, because they're taking losses right now, by people who can't pay rent. I think every avenue should be opened up, because if you tell a landlord you can't evict, then it falls into the same thing as telling people they can't work. The government needs to fess up some money for them.
I do think that most landlords have, at the very least, an LLC.
yeah.
I don't know if that counts towards, some kind of.
It may.
I don't know. But it makes sense to have one. Especially if someone else is living on your property. I think it would be important to have an LLC.
And if we're going to tell landlords they can't evict, I think that we also need to go further and say if a landlord comes into a hardship because they now can't evict, but they also can't collect rent, we can't take their property. The bank can't seize their property because of this. So we would have to go, further and further up the chain. That to me, gosh, I mean, that's where it starts getting uncomfortable for me, because I don't like the government's hand in all of this, but I also understand that we're in a crisis. I think the biggest thing is that we have to look at this in the scope of, is this directly related to COVID-19 and the government shutting down? If there were other circumstances where it's like, oh, this guy was going to lose his property, this guy was going to get evicted, this was going to happen no matter what, I think we really, really need to be careful about about separating the two things. And I don't know that that's going to happen.
Well, I don't think any of this is going to matter if they don't get the economy opened back up. And the longer that it stays shut, we're looking at consequences that are going to hit us, like you said, Brittany, 6 months down the road, 18 months, 24 months down the road. It's going to be more than just immediately the rent that you can't pay this month. It's just, there are so many businesses that are going to have to shutter their doors forever. That the mass unemployment, 6.6 million people. I don't know what the new jobs numbers were, but I know that they had said that 6 million people had applied from unemployment. And then they printed, $4 trillion. I heard the Fed got $4 trillion, and that the 2.2 number was just the stimulus bill. There's also money that's going to the Fed too. So we're just gonna, endlessly print money until the dollar is worthless, and that eventuality seems like it's gonna come faster than we realize because they're trying to put stopgaps, for that to happen. But it's just that's a short term thing that's only going to help us right now. And like you said, down the road, it's just not. We're not going to have any money left because our dollar's not going to be worth anything.
And I think that's why we need to stop. I understand what's essential business, what's not essential business. If you can't feed your family, your business is an essential business. That's really what it comes down to. If we're all going to be out on the streets, then it's all essential. I mean, my husband works in the film industry. I would say 90% of people would look and say, well, that's not an essential, but all of you are watching Netflix at home right now.
Right.
So if my husband doesn't make another movie, then we're going to lose our health care eventually, and my kid's not going to have his diabetes insulin, and he's going to die. So I absolutely agree with you, Jessica. Everything that you've said about if we want to talk about healthcare, we want to talk about people's safety. The economy is healthcare for all of us. If the economy is bad, then there's so many of us that aren't going to make it.
We talk about living paycheck to paycheck, but there's a vast number of our population who also exist and subsist because of the capital wealth that we have. And without that capital wealth to keep people afloat by, just the pharmaceutical industry, it's really, of course, very convoluted, of course. That's like, what do you call it? The hooks. You can't just pull one. There's a bunch of hooks in it. But, without systems like that in place, there are a lot of people who can't get through the day. We're talking about medical crashes, like they stop breathing, their hearts stop beating, they don't make the proper amount of insulin. Like all of these things are real world consequences that happen as a result. And that's what I was talking about the butcher's bill earlier. We're having people die of COVID, and that is very sad. But there's not going to be not going to be a body count from the collapse of the economy. And it's the seen versus the unseen. Frederick Bastiat. You see what's in front of you. You want to affect what's in front of you, but so many of us can't conceptualize outside of that, and we need to, because there's like a waterfall. We're in a boat, and there's a waterfall, and if we don't start paddling, at least to the shore, we're going over, for sure.
Yeah, it's sad that it all being this situation is the forefront of so many arguments and debates, because you talk about healthcare, and it's like, yes, if the economy gets worse, those people that don't have healthcare, right? The many people that don't have insurance or underinsured, well, they're just even more screwed, right? And then you look at other things, without jobs. Homes, the minimum wage from one state to the next, can't afford housing, right? Because we see that there's a housing gap versus housing versus wage gap there in a lot of places. And then you have to get into this debate about, well, what should the minimum wage be? Should there be a minimum wage? Do we just let it sort itself out? And it all is rooted in that economy, and it's and I question whether or not our economy has become so inflated that this is having more of an impact on an inflated economy than on a normal economy if everything was more in line, if wages met the inflation of goods, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the fact that it's all supported on like over leveraged credit and things like that, it's not an accident that it's going to impact us. That we're headed for the correction to end all corrections, and that's because when 2008 happened, instead of recognizing what we were doing was wrong, we just paved over it and kept doing the same thing. So the foundation upon which we grew from, and we have grown since 2008 by an enormous amount. Our economy has grown in size, but we built that growth on a shaky foundation. It's sand underneath there, and it's about to collapse under its own weight. And we couldn't afford to shut down. We couldn't have afforded to do this shutdown under a healthy economy. Like
Right.
it would have had problems under a healthy economy. But the fact that we have this like fiat economy,
Right.
you know, it's I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope. I have been encouraging people to buy seeds. And
Right.
my normal thing isn't to encourage people to grow their own gardens, but I'm like, I don't want you to starve to death.
Right.
So like, you know, start
Well,
growing a garden.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, I go back to what I said about my wife earlier. I mean, we've got enough seeds and stuff in this house to populate the seed bank up at the North Pole, because she's just constantly going through that process all her life. I mean, it amazes me something like, Jesus Christ, if we get a flood, we're gonna have a jungle in the house. I mean, it's just that crazy. But yeah, I mean, but we have created a situation in this country where self-reliance is only predicated on your fear of an apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
You know, it is.
Oh, I have so much to say about this,
feel like-
but I don't want to talk. I don't want to be the only one talking.
Well, I do
No,
want to bring this because of something, some of the things we've been talking about. I do want to bring something in from the live chat that I saw it an hour ago and I haven't said anything about it, but I think it fits right in with what we're saying here. So, Post Jazz RDG posted at 1:36. I apologize for taking so long to get here. Do you think the term non-essential will have a negative effect on people that already have motivational struggles? And I think that fits right into what we're talking about here.
Oh man.
I mean, I'm sure probably.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean, how could it not? But I'm sure.
Well,
That's a good question.
it's you know, the whole essential / non-essential is a very broad spectrum, because, you know, you look at it like this, you know, is a stimulus package essential or non-essential? Because, you know, self-reliance is essential right now. That's what's essential. But, you know, you ask the guy next door, he's going to tell you, no, a stimulus package is essential so that I can go buy my shit at the store. You know, so, you know, you can't, there is no solid ground you can land on about what is essential in the present day and age and what is non-essential. It's a scary trap to be in, and the only way to solve it is to open everything up and say everything is essential. Get back to your life.
And I kind of wonder, just this is my conspiracy theory mind, but all of this closure and all of this designating what's essential and what's not essential, we had a lot of hospitals, we had a lot of states, we had a lot of smaller governments that were heading for a crisis right before this. And it will be very easy, or at least a lot easier after this whole thing, to say, well, we weren't in trouble before. It was because of this pandemic. So we need federal funding for this. We need, you know, our economy is more essential. This is that. Where some of the things that I'm seeing happening look like they're trying to make it so that they can make this disaster more than what, or this pandemic more than what it is, turn it into a disaster so that those federal dollars come in. And one of the fastest ways to do that is to say, this is essential, this is not essential, even though essential workers need non-essential things to do their essential jobs, that the people need non-essential things to continue doing essential functions. It all, like I said, I have no, it's just a conspiracy theory, but it's box
Well,
like
If I may, my own conspiracy theory.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So if you translate that up, the economy of New York was in absolute decline and collapse before any of this happened. And I'm not saying that New York doesn't have a lot of cases. Surely they do. They're the mecca and hub of like the travel world. You know, everybody goes through New York at some point. But it's interesting to me that, you know, at the forefront here is New York saying we must have, and then there's billions of dollars being thrown around in this massive slush fund that we call a $2.2 trillion stimulus bill. and the squeaky wheel gets the grease, you know? Oh, us New Yorkers. And there was an article that came out in Slate where New Yorkers were complaining that, oh, the rest of the country just doesn't seem to have the same kind of like love for us that they did during 9/11. They don't want to rally around us the same way. And so New York has a vested interest in New York. And there's a lot of money being thrown around.
Yeah.
So make of that what you will.
And
Well-
Cuomo had some big issues that he had to face starting April 1st. Some real big ones that he would have had to deal with that he now doesn't.
Well, now I have my conspiracy because
Let's hear it.
I think that these folks that you're talking about are just lucky recipients of the larger conspiracy, where China is actually aware of just how fragile and fucked our bubble economy is, and they say, let's get it spread. And now where are they at? They are poised to dominate the economic market as they are beginning to open China up again, take on mass production again. They are poised to dominate the global economy in various ways with many countries who have high levels of need right now.
Oh, man. Oh, man. I think you're right.
Well, speaking of that,
all-
though, do you think that some of this does change how we look at globalism on top of it, given what China is looking at and trying to do there?
I think so. I think Donald Trump was absolutely right. And I was the last person who would have said that. I mean, some of
Yeah,
y'all
those
know
words do seem kind of foreign, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. I mean, I used to be like a hardcore Bernie leftist, you know, and now I'm sitting here going, well, yeah, clearly he was right. We have 20 drugs that are like essential life-saving drugs that both the drug and the precursors to the drugs are